Chapter 298. Tianxi didn't understand what Luonan said at all. She just saw the crazy security guard fall face first to the ground. The baton slipped from his hand and slid all the way to their feet. She instinctively wanted to pick it up and use it to defend herself, but Luonan kicked the baton away the moment she bent down. "Don't delay. Take this elevator and leave first." Luonan urged Tianxi to move faster. Tianxi hesitated for a moment before walking out from behind Luonan. She walked toward the elevator when another ding rang out. A second elevator had arrived. Its location was right next to the previous elevator. Tianxi took a step forward and was half a step ahead of Luonan. She raised her head and saw the same scene from before. Two security guards with the same expression came out of the elevator. One of them was even carrying a riot gun. Tianxi's vermilion lips parted when she saw the pitch-black muzzle of the gun, but her throat was choked with fear. She was unable to make a sound. She no longer had the chance to hide this time. But it was also because of this that her pupils dilated from fear, clearly reflected the entire process of the two crazy security guards' eyes rolling white as they silently fell to the ground. There were no sound or light effects during the entire process. It was like a pantomime. The people on the viewing platform outside didn't notice anything. But the more it was like this, the more bizarre and mysterious elements seeped into the bottom of her heart. Tianxi subconsciously covered her mouth. Her ice-cold palms felt a bit of warmth from the breath, allowing her to confirm that she was still in the real world. But why? Why did she get involved in a conflict of this level? Luonan didn't have the leisure to ponder over a girl's mind. He saw that Tianxi couldn't move her legs, so he gave her a light push. "Hurry up!" Tianxi bit her lips and took 2 steps forward. However, at this moment, the faint sound of motors suddenly stopped, and the display screens of the entire row of elevators on this side had all turned off. The power was cut off, and the metal doors automatically closed, isolating Tianxi outside. Whether it was Tianxi or Luonan, they were both stunned for a moment. Half a second later, Luonan grinned. It was hard to tell if he was smiling or not. The other side doesn't fight a battle unprepared. A muffled vibration came over just as Luonan finished speaking. The two trembled slightly beneath their feet. An earthquake. Tianxi's first thought was an earthquake that had persisted for over a month. But the second wave of vibration came right after. There was also the sound of crashing water. It clearly came from the direction of Heavenly Ocean Lake. The few tourists on the viewing platform were all extremely shocked. Some stuck their heads in the direction of the swimming pool, while others directly walked over. Tianxi looked over as well, but Luonan pulled her away. "Go to the fire escape passageway." Luonan no longer paid attention to the defunct elevator. He quickly confirmed the location and walked a few steps quickly. He rushed ahead of the confused Tianxi, wanting her to keep up. In a trance, Tianxi took a few steps forward and stepped over the body of the crazy security guard. This time, she didn't trip. Instead, she was more stimulated. When things reach an extreme, they move in the opposite direction. Her mind became much clearer. Remembering something, she stopped and bent down to pick up the anti-riot gun on the ground. Tian said. A foot swept over and brushed past Tianxi's fingertips, sending the anti-riot gun flying several meters away. Tianxi's heart instantly spasmed. All her complex and chaotic emotions were squeezed to the point of exploding in this moment. She suddenly stood up straight, and she did not know where the courage came from. She rushed at Luonan and shouted. She unconsciously lowered her voice. "You have to use a weapon to defend yourself." "T. Guard down," said Nan. Tian. "For what reason?" "I just took a course. Non-combatants can't possess weapons of mass destruction in similar situations. Otherwise, I might be the first to suffer." Tianxi knew that she couldn't get angry, but she couldn't stand having her dignity trampled on. She raised her voice. "I've gone through military training. I won't hurt you by accident. Or are you worried that I'll shoot you in the back?" "Yes, they will when the other party has some sort of controlling ability." Luonan raised his wrist slightly after speaking. He asked through his communication wristband. It can control ordinary people. The controlled person's movements are unhindered, and their emotions are strange. "What sort of ability is this?" Zhang Yingying responded in the first instance. She pointed directly at the owner of this ability. "It's puppeteer." He's a member of the investigation team. He's proficient in high-level hypnosis. His ability is to control life forms with complex emotions. Aside from humans, he can also control wild beasts or mutants with high intelligence, as long as he doesn't suffer a backlash. We can now determine who's in the crystal pillar. Zhang Yingying snorted coldly. Stay away from that stupid woman if you want to live. You should have parted ways from the beginning. Luonan indicated for Tianxi to keep up. He laughed. The other party has made ample preparations. I might not be able to deal with the hostage situation. I might as well keep her by my side and be at ease. You're going to ignore her? Who knows? Why take the risk and try? Zhang Yingying choked. She said resentfully, I'm just afraid that you won't be able to protect her. You'll be threatened all the same. Then it's a matter of ability. Luonan used his mental senses to lock onto the two threatening targets while he cautiously observed the situation all around him. At the same time, he spoke with Zhang Yingying and split some of his energy to keep an eye on Tianxi. Multiple operations and multiple people taking care of each other. This was a bitter task for anyone. However, Luonan dealt with it in an orderly and logical manner. He wasn't messed up at all. In fact, Luonan's mind had become much clearer after these 10 days of training. He Yuan, bamboo pole, paper cut, and the others had imperceptibly clarified many common-sense standards for him. When he encountered a situation and needed to make a judgment, he already had a set of rules about what elements he needed to consider and what he could overlook. Also, the cultivation of the heart lantern of the eye's orifice had allowed his reaction and coordination abilities to advance by leaps and bounds, even though he had yet to reach in-progress results. No matter what situation he faced, he would always be much calmer than before. He even split some of his mental energy. Leicester, be a bit steady. Don't charge too fiercely. No problem. I'm around the 110th floor. I'll be there soon. Shuelei's breathing was steady, but his mood was clearly a bit tense. Luonan comforted him. It's okay. I've already taken down 3 of them. Puppeteer's move is useless against me. He arrived in front of the fire escape passageway as he spoke. He was just about to push the door open when he suddenly felt that something was wrong. The heart lantern of the eye's orifice flickered, and he immediately retracted his arm. He was just a hair away from stabbing his finger with the dark green beetle's pincers on the door handle. The sharp edge of the pincers was serrated, and there was a layer of green and lustrous light. The result of stabbing him would probably not be good. The attack missed, and the beetle, which was the size of a fist, buzzed. It spread its wings and flew into the air, smashing down to cover Luonan's face. Tianxi cried out in alarm. Luonan's other hand grabbed the loose-leaf notebook, and he swung it like a fly swatter. The dark green beetle leaped up to avoid Luonan's attack, and then it pounced down. It displayed inconceivable agility. Luonan saw that the force of his attack was exhausted, and he was no longer able to block it. A thin piece of paper floated out from between the pages of the notebook in Luonan's hand. It lay horizontally in the path of the beetle's attack. It transformed out of thin air, contracting like a spring, and then it burst open to reveal a small and exquisite figure. It flew high into the air and kicked the beetle far away. The small and exquisite figure landed on Luonan's shoulder. It was actually a small paperman the size of a palm. It had all 4 limbs, and its face was muddle-headed. Its body was only a thin layer, but it just so happened to adopt a fist stance. It was extremely intelligent amidst its strangeness. The chain of changes could be said to be like a falcon descending from a hare. Tianxi's cry of alarm had only just begun. Things were far from over. Not only did the beetle that was sent flying waver a few times, but it pounced over again. 7 or 8 beetles flew out from the crack in the door of the fire escape passageway. It was as if they were carved from the same mold. They buzzed with the sound of flapping wings, and they pounced over in unison. They were a dense mass of darkness, and it made one's scalp go numb. Luonan's figure hastily retreated, and he even pulled Tianxi along with him. The small paperman on his shoulder soared into the air even earlier. It was like a valiant boxing master. It faced the enemy head-on without the slightest fear. It punched and kicked, and each strike was heavy. It sent 3 flying in a row, stopping the momentum of the beetle's attack. But no matter how valiant and tenacious the small paperman was, it was still outnumbered when faced with a beetle swarm. Its figure was not inferior to the beetle swarm, and it didn't possess the ability to fly. It had no choice but to borrow strength from the beetles. It was greatly restricted, and soon it was in dire straits. One of its arms was torn off, and it floated to the ground. Fortunately, the beetle's reactions were not sharp or astute. They were confused by the small paperman's aura, and they all fell to the ground. They gathered in a circle, and because they were small targets, they hindered each other, giving the small paperman time to struggle. Luo Nan retreated all the way, but his gaze never left the small battlefield. He asked, "Is controlling beetles a skill of puppeteer?" Zhang Yingying didn't answer immediately. "Hello." A sharp beep rang out. It was Zhang Yingying smacking down with her palm. The car horn blared. She was rushing over, but Luo Nan's words woke her up. She couldn't control herself and said angrily, "It's Black Beetle. That idiot. His heart is even smaller than a beetle's." Black Beetle? Luo Nan remembered this fellow. It seemed that Black Beetle was one of Zhang Yingying, Bamboo Pole, and the others who played the game together. During the operation to encircle the human-faced arachnid at the Limestone Water Village pub, Black Beetle had swung his hands and left because he was dissatisfied with He Yuan's blunt and outspoken style. Later, Black Beetle vented his anger on Luo Nan because of the matter of the operation score. He directly made a phone call to threaten Luo Nan. Luo Nan really didn't know how Zhang Yingying and the others were able to play with such a character. Right now, Black Beetle had already made his move, and he was going against Luo Nan. His position was very clear. Zhang Yingying went silent for a few seconds after she spoke. Her voice was a bit low. She didn't mention personal matters. She just said, "Don't treat him as a wizard. Pay attention to his close-range attacks. His speed definitely isn't fast, but his transformations are strange. His explosive power is strong, and many of his techniques are dipped in poison." Luo Nan's gaze cut across the mass of beetles. "That's really bad. Alright. Is he an activation class?" "What?" Zhang Yingying didn't react for a time. "Soul strength activation. It's the type that Papercut excels at. Aren't they divided into the control style and the activation style? I think this move of his is quite similar." Zhang Yingying didn't understand what he meant. She could only say, "It's the activation class. But I'm telling you to be careful of his close-range attacks. That's what counters you the most." "I know." Chapter 299. Luo Nan's response really didn't meet Zhang Yingying's expectations. She slapped the steering wheel again. "What the hell are you playing it down for? Haven't you been attending classes all this time? You don't even understand the most basic analysis of victory and defeat. What the hell are you playing for? What in the world did the secretary teach you?" "I've learned a few things. The most basic principle is to analyze the advantages and disadvantages of the enemy and myself. We should play to our strengths and avoid our weaknesses. We should seize the enemy's weakness and attack them to death. Also, you need to have absolute confidence in your own advantages. You absolutely can't lose momentum. That bastard crag burst must have fed you some kind of bewitching soup. Amazing." Luo Nan expressed his admiration very sincerely, but it angered Zhang Yingying to the point where she fell backwards. She really wanted to grab this kid by the ear and lecture him, but this really wasn't the time to talk nonsense. She could only grit her teeth, endure her temper, and speak layer by layer. "Let me tell you. Your advantages are all long range, and most of them are on the mental plane. Right now, Black Beetle and the others know everything about you, and their strength is far above yours. Most of your foresight abilities like mental senses have been crippled. You still have a mental attack technique, right? It looks pretty good, but if the opponent is on guard, it's not hard to specially prepare a layer of countermeasures. They've already reached this step. Why would they be afraid of putting in more effort?" Luo Nan listened earnestly to Zhang Yingying's analysis, but he declined to comment. In the end, he just hung his head slightly, closed his eyes, and breathed out, adjusting his state. When he opened his eyes again, he gave a simple answer. "I'll do my best not to meet them face to face." "You." Level 125. Shuelei took the initiative to interrupt. He also reminded the two that it was better to act than talk. If they continued to toss and turn, Black Beetle would really come charging over. "Got it." Luo Nan responded. From beginning to end, Whether it was Shui Lei or the two dangerous targets, they were all within the range of his senses. He had a grasp of their respective rhythms of action. He even estimated the specific data. Puppeteer is still leading the Devil Ray to crash into the wall. Black Beetle just exited the elevator. The straight line distance is 55 meters, and he's advancing at a uniform speed. There's no better route. Move forward. The first part was an instruction to Zhang Yingying, and the last 3 words were an order to Tianxi, indicating that the senior sister should rush into the fire escape, and he even gave her a push. But insects. Facing more than 10 ugly beetles piled up together, Tianxi's hair stood on end. She was already very strong-willed to keep her legs from weakening. Easier to deal with than humans. Though Luonan said this, he still shook his notebook. The pages split apart and another small paperman jumped out. It wandered around the outside of the beetle pile, helping its companion to disperse the pressure and making the fight even more lively. Tianxi was unable to smile at all when she saw this mini and even comical battle scene. Ever since the start of the crazy security guard, Luonan had always been a bewitching core that clutched at her heart. Luonan would occasionally glance at her, but it made her heart beat faster. Most of this was due to the effects of fear. But she also remembered what Luo Nantung had said during the call. Under such circumstances, this young man, who was 6 or 7 years younger than her, did not need to hide anything. All his worries and considerations were open and frank. Because of this, the flavor of leniency that came after calm contemplation clearly appeared. Luonan didn't wish for her to become a hostage. It wasn't that there was any friendship between the two. It was just that it would bring trouble. But how could a truly emotionless person consider this? Tianxi thought of that person. She had already contacted him countless times after the incident, but he didn't pick up. He completely ignored her. Comparing the two, the callous and deep core behind his exquisite brows could be seen even more clearly. Tianxi found it strange that she was still able to think of these things in this critical situation. Perhaps this was the nature of women? Tianxi laughed self-deprecatingly after a few waves of thoughts churned in her mind. A bit of calmness reappeared from her dazed and chaotic state. She no longer hesitated and doubted pointlessly. She held her breath and carefully walked toward the fire escape ahead of her. The 2 small papermen gathered the beetles into a ball, clearing the path to the fire escape. Luonan and Tianxi took a few steps forward. There was a bit of commotion as they passed the beetle swarm. Tianxi instinctively shuddered, but Luonan promptly reminded her, "Don't worry about it." Tianxi looked at the wooden door of the fire escape, which was only 2 steps away. She simply closed her eyes and extended her arm forward. She increased the speed of her feet instead of slowing down. Her palm made contact with the door in the span of a breath. The beetles she had been worried about did not turn around to chase after her. There weren't even 1 or 2 extra beetles in the dusky stairwell. Behind her, Luonan pushed open the wooden door of the stairwell, but he didn't enter. He just said to Tianxi, "Keep walking down. Don't worry about the elevator." "Aren't we going together?" Tianxi didn't receive a response from Luonan at all. The 15 or 16-year-old youth in front of her had long since turned his face to stare at the situation on the viewing platform. His body leaned against the half-open door, his back slightly bent. He could react at any time. Tianxi was a bit hesitant, but before she could speak, a muffled explosion that shook the heart came from the viewing platform. The muffled sound wave was mixed with cries of alarm and screams. A powerful pillar of water sprayed out from the center of Heavenly Ocean Lake. It rushed all the way to the dome above, sweeping away the gorgeous decorations hanging from it. What was even more shocking was the enormous shadow within the pillar of water. It seemed to make a flip while sticking to the dome before falling down heavily. The pool water violently surged out, washing away many of the surrounding furnishings. The tourists who had surrounded the pool to watch the show, driven by curiosity, were swaying left and right. Some even slid into the water, screaming over and over. The viewing platform was a complete mess. "You're quite strong. Why aren't you leaving yet?" The situation before her eyes, as well as Luonan's reminder, made the stupefied Tianxi finally understand the meaningless role she played in this storm. She gritted her teeth, turned around, and rushed down the stairs. Her heels clattered against the ground, and soon, she disappeared without a trace. Puppeteer's methods had caused the viewing platform to be in a state of chaos. Even the beetles in front of the fire escape were in an uproar. It was as if their intelligence had jumped 2 levels in an instant. Most of the beetles flew up, and most of the papermen, who were unable to levitate, were useless. The highly intelligent beetles broke away from the stupid situation and took advantage of the situation to confirm their target. A dozen or so pairs of compound eyes locked onto Luo Nan, who stood at the entrance to the fire escape. They made slight adjustments, and they swarmed over with a buzzing sound. The dense black mass had the style of a horror movie. Luo Nan didn't react in the first instance. His gaze didn't even fall on the bodies of the numerous beetles. Instead, it pierced through the middle and fell on a certain person on the viewing platform. The viewing platform was in a state of chaos due to the magnificent power of the Devil Ray. A crowd of tourists clutched their heads, and some fled. There were a few unlucky people who were still struggling in the water. Only the person Luo Nan's gaze was pointing at was dressed in black clothes with the demeanor of an investigator. He wore a gaudy necktie, and he had one hand in his pocket. He walked over unhurriedly. He was on a completely different line from the others. Though his pace was calm, his speed was actually extremely fast. It was as if he possessed the length contraction technique. This manifested his outstanding body control and coordination. This was the black beetle. Right now, the distance between the two didn't exceed 40 meters. A well-trained ability user could easily discern the target at this distance. Black Beetle rushed at Luo Nan and laughed. 5 colored stripes were engraved on his black teeth, sending a treacherous and sinister power through the air. The speed of the pouncing beetle swarm actually increased by several times. Luo Nan's eyes were half closed. The impending dangerous situation seemed to be covered by a layer of mist. It was not all that clear. But the heart lantern flickered within his brain, reflecting the flying and crawling trajectories of every beetle, and it made predictions. The trajectories crisscrossed and extended, and a layer of incorporeal spiderweb was laid out. Luo Nan resided in the center of the spider web. The movements of any beetle would be reflected in his mind, and the beetle would crawl on the spider web. The beetle would slow down when it collided with the spider web. It wasn't that the speed of the beetle itself was reduced. Instead, Luo Nan's judgment and consciousness, which was brimming with foresight, caused the level of movement of the beetle to drop by a level. This was a newly learned skill. It was an application of the heart lantern of the eye's orifice. At the same time, the mental senses that had fused with his instincts displayed their effects. It was just as Luo Nan had deduced. These fluttering beetles were no different from the small paper men on the ground in a practical sense. They were just mediums for the activation of soul strength. They were carriers of the operational structure of core energy and information. Luo Nan's mental senses illuminated the special configurations of the bodies of each beetle, and they were all reflected one by one. Even though there was a certain difference from the prismatic structure that he had come into contact with the most, Papercut's course had touched upon several basic transformation modes. Therefore, the changes in the core structure of the beetles, including their corresponding rhythms, entered the scope of Luo Nan's clairvoyance. Not a single strand of it was reflected into his mind. Just like that, his mental senses and the illumination of the heart lantern fused together. The spider web, which originally only involved the movement of objects, suddenly merged with many more layers. It was densely packed, layer upon layer of obstacles. The flying and pouncing beetles immediately slowed down by a level. In the domain of reaction, a beat slower was the difference of an entire world. All sorts of changes were synchronized with the control center of Luo Nan's body. Luo Nan responded according to the level of danger. What Luo Nan did was to step sideways to make way for the entrance to the fire escape passageway. He added more force to the automatic rebounding wooden door. This was a simple set of actions, but the most rare thing about them was that they were clearly layered. They weren't messed up at all, and they gave off a feeling of calm and unruffled. This was the full embodiment of body coordination. Half of the effects of cultivating the heart lantern of the eye's orifice over the past 10 days came from this. The door closed heavily. Through the glass of the door, Luo Nan could see the beetles unable to dodge in time. They collided headfirst into the door, and the crackling sounds of impact were quite crisp. Of course, this wasn't enough. These beetles weren't made of steel, so a normal impact wouldn't be able to injure them. Luo Nan didn't hope that this attack would succeed. He just used the door to block, and then he ran down the stairs. His eyes remained half-closed as he ran, and an incorporeal spider web revolved around him in the void. Above his head, on the familiar mental plane, A vicious and ugly shadow responded to his summons. It appeared by his side, occupying the center of the spider web. Its 6 eyes circulated with brilliance as it absorbed information from all directions. It was none other than the executor who had gotten rid of the 3 crazy security guards. The human-faced arachnid. Chapter 300. The human-faced arachnid in Luo Nan's hands was not an original type. It was a product of faith developed by the Order of Justice. It was a high-quality imitation version that Luo Nan had personally created. He had created and used it back at Frost River Reality. It was quite easy to order it around. Unfortunately, it was later destroyed by An Wang. Luo Nan had already forgotten about this matter with the passage of time. He never expected that Fairchild would send someone to deliver a small bottle of raw materials for some unknown reason before he went back to report. It was the metal bottle that Luo Nan had just thrown on the ground. Of course, the actual application of the human-faced arachnid still needed to mix in some negative emotions as a catalyst. This was not difficult for Luo Nan. The Wraith sign remained within the Blood Flame order, making it difficult to summon. This imitation human-faced arachnid could more or less serve as a substitute. The human-faced arachnid had locked onto all the threatening targets with Luo Nan's mental senses. The reason why it did not make a move was because Luo Nan had an unreliable feeling through his observations of the life sketches. He was like an experienced sniper who had a premonition of hitting or not hitting the target before pulling the trigger. No matter how bad the premonition was, it was impossible for Luo Nan to hesitate any longer. With a thought, the human-faced arachnid spat out an incorporeal shockwave. The shockwave passed through the insects that lacked the light of intelligence. It penetrated through all the barriers of the human body and bombarded the soul body of Black Beetle, who was closing in endlessly. A visible tremor appeared on Black Beetle's body as soon as the attack hit. His advancing figure turned slightly sluggish, but that was all. He was just stunned for a moment. His head tilted slightly, and his gaze behind his sunglasses seemed to be able to penetrate the structure of the building to land on Luo Nan. All right. Zhang Yingying's jinx had come true. His long-range attack really did not have any effect. Speaking of which, this was not a rare thing. Luo Nan had seen many problems with the siege hammer being ineffective. The human-faced arachnid had wreaked havoc in Xia City for nearly a month. Everyone gradually became aware of the methods it specialized in. Every power revolved around its existence, and the Order of Justice was able to create a faith product. How could they not allow others to create similar mental defenses? Luo Nan was just stunned. He did not feel depressed or flustered. He had already reached the 141st floor. He hesitated for a moment in the stairwell before walking out of the fire escape passageway. There was no one else on this floor. Inside the building, 99% of the lighting in the public area revolved around the crystal pillar, emitting a dreamy blue light. Luo Nan's gaze swept over as well. The waves had yet to calm down, but the magnitude of the tremors was decreasing. The Devil Ray's silhouette was nowhere to be seen. Thoughts spun in his mind, but his feet did not stop. He walked straight along the edge of the crystal pillar and quickly walked toward the elevator in the central area. This series of actions was very exhausting, and his breathing was slightly ragged. Just as he reached the middle section of the crystal pillar, 2 loud thumps came from the stairwell behind him. The doors above and below opened one after another in just 2 seconds. Black Beetle, dressed in formal attire, walked out with large strides and let out a sharp whistle that carried a hint of mockery. Luo Nan turned around just in time to officially meet this person face to face. Black Beetle's appearance didn't bring Luo Nan any more pleasant surprises. Luo Nan had long since memorized the details of this person's face clearly through his mental senses. If there was anything different about Ruo Cheng, it would probably be the group of beetles flying around him and the 2 paper dolls in his hands. Clearly, it would be very difficult for the 2 paper dolls to be of any use against an ability user like Black Beetle. Black Beetle's feet did not stop. The muscles on his half-covered face trembled, and his lips split open to reveal the pattern of black teeth. Luo Nan was stunned for a moment before he understood that this was Black Beetle's smile. "Kid, this is our first meeting. I made an appointment with you. You're just a lowly piece of trash who vents his anger by cursing over the phone." Luo Nan spoke very frankly about his impression of Black Beetle. Black Beetle's face instantly emitted a layer of green energy when his self-introduction was stuck. The pattern on his black teeth moved back and forth, and at the same time, he exerted more strength in his fingers. The 2 paper dolls, who were already on the verge of death, were kneaded back and forth. Soon they were deformed. In the end, they turned into specks of dust that drifted down from between his fingers. Luo Nan's eyes jumped. A small portion of his 10 days of hard work was gone just like that. Black Beetle noticed where Luo Nan's gaze was directed at and clapped his hands, knocking off the last of the paper. His eyes behind his sunglasses looked straight at Luo Nan. Your mouth is a lot sharper, but... Activation class? Didn't they say that there's a problem with your interference power? That your progress has stagnated? Those people who deal with intelligence must be joking around. Luo Nan didn't say anything. His field of vision covered Black Beetle as well as his own kind that fluttered around him. The heart lantern of the eye's orifice and his mental senses worked in sync. From beginning to end, Luo Nan analyzed and made predictions. Luo Nan was still moving backward while his mind was focused on observing. He was facing Black Beetle. He walked backward, but his speed was not slow. What should have been a comical action was done very calmly and beautifully. This was the result of his body's coordination. Luo Nan definitely wouldn't have been able to do such an action 10 days ago. The wonders of cultivating in the eye's orifice lay in this. It wasn't simply training the eyes. It was a kind of cultivation that encompassed the entire body. According to Gym Master Xiao, this was the beginning of a lifetime of cultivation. It played the role of summarizing the essentials. Luo Nan's strength, speed, and other hard indicators might not have made much progress over the past 10 days through targeted practice, but all of his abilities related to integration, coordination, and control had clearly increased. Even Black Beetle raised an eyebrow when he saw this scene. You've spent quite a bit of effort in training that robotic woman. Is it because you've licked her to your heart's content? Black Beetle's words were far from the main topic, and they were even more unbearable to the ears. Luo Nan's eyelids twitched, but his rhythm of observation and retreat was not disrupted. There was only a distance of 10 meters left between him and the edge of the central crystal pillar. He just needed to make a turn there, and he would reach the elevator area. Black Beetle twisted his neck. His footsteps seemed slow, but they were actually fast. He strode in close pursuit. What are you running for? Do you still remember what I said? We're going to play slowly. My words must be true. My actions must be resolute. This has always been my motto. No matter how Black Beetle provoked, probed and mocked him, Luo Nan made up his mind not to say a word. He knew that the real show had yet to begin. He was happy to see this situation. Shuelei had already broken through the threshold of the 130th floor. There was only a straight line distance of 40 to 50 meters left. However, the difficulty of climbing a building and running were different in the end. Plus, the difference in speed between Luo Nan and Black Beetle was very clear. Black Beetle took a few steps, and the distance between the two closed to around 30 meters. Luo Nan blinked, and his eyelids drooped down. The scene before his eyes turned a bit fuzzy. Black Beetle's method of advancing looked ordinary, but it was actually full of tricks and changes. Any tiny movement of his shoulders, hips, waist, and spine could be seen as a prelude to some change. Plus, his exuberant aura of life and his self-formed self-logic obscured the details of the life sketches from beginning to end. This brought great trouble to Luo Nan's analysis and judgment. Luo Nan's spiderweb became even more complex because of Black Beetle's existence. The consumption of energy increased endlessly. Black Beetle's voice cut in at the right time. It was indescribably sinister. Are you sure you want to continue running? It's true that intelligence is often funny, but there are times when it's useful. I know that you have an outstanding range of mental senses. You have decent mental attack techniques, and you even have the ability to activate your class. But, your body and soul are out of balance, and your body is reaching its limits. This information isn't wrong, right? Kid, do you feel your fingers go numb, your entire body is burning, and your body is aching? Luo Nan's eyelids twitched. It wasn't just because of the provocation from Black Beetle's words. It was also because the distance between him and Black Beetle had already entered the threshold of 20 meters. For an ability user, Black Beetle could practically reach Luo Nan in a single pounce. Black Beetle's words grew all the more unhurried, but the pressure of his movements continued to increase. Your 3 axes are right there. Everyone can see it. Have you ever learned the analysis of the factors that determine victory and defeat? How to calculate the factors that determine victory and defeat, advantages and disadvantages. Actually, You don't need to lick that robotic woman. Uncle Bug can teach you step by step right now. Oh, your eyes. It's your eyes, right? Your blood vessels are about to burst. At this very moment, Luo Nan's half-squinted eyes were already glistening with a bright red color. It was just as Black Beetle had said. The blood vessels around his eyes were about to burst. The heart lantern of the eye's orifice was used with mental senses. The results were excellent. The trajectory of activity on the material plane. The source of control on the mental plane. The structure of energy and information that interfered with each other. The elements of different planes corresponded and appeared. They affected and interfered with each other. Only by using a united method could everything be displayed in the most comprehensive manner. It was quite helpful in increasing the progress of cultivating in the eye's orifice. This point had already been displayed when he was watching the fish at the party. But Luo Nan's current cultivation situation could tell that there were hidden dangers in this close relationship. He had felt a sense of crisis for many days. But who would care about these things at this critical juncture? Now, after a round of cultivation, the hidden dangers began to reveal themselves. The most direct and fatal point was the limits of what his body could bear. Black Beetle believed that the time was right. He let out a strange chuckle from his throat. We can keep playing, or we can be honest with each other. Why don't you tell me what you saw in the logic world? The question that came out of nowhere made Luo Nan, who was suffering from the limits of his eyes, feel his heart thump heavily. How many people knew about such a secretive matter? How did the news leak out? Black Beetle grasped an opportunity during Luo Nan's moment of distraction. How could he expect Luo Nan to spit it out? Black Beetle had used a series of oppressive words and actions for the sake of obtaining this opportunity to strike. Black Beetle's figure suddenly blurred, and he flashed out from the swarm of beetles surrounding his body. Even Zhang Yingying would praise him for his explosive power. He instantly crossed a distance of nearly 20 meters and clawed at Luo Nan's face. Black Beetle saw that Luo Nan was only an arm's length away, but an attack assaulted him on the mental plane. He's exhausted his limited abilities. Black Beetle had long since anticipated Luo Nan's response. There were only a few methods this kid could use at his current stage, no matter how one looked at it. Black Beetle had long since made his preparations to take on Luo Nan. He had specially cast a protective spell before taking action. It could withstand at least 5 similar waves of attacks. Black Beetle deliberately stared at Luo Nan's eyes. He hoped that the fear and despair in this kid's heart would spurt out along with the high-pressure burst of blood. Black Beetle would use the Hexa ear to capture this marvelous scene. He would give it to the robotic woman, to all the old friends who flattered and coaxed this kid, but had forgotten about him. In the next moment, the attack on the mental plane touched the protective net formed by Luo Nan's incantation. Black Beetle saw his wish come true. Blood seeped out from the corner of Luo Nan's eyes. Black Beetle's lips parted, and he welcomed all of this with a smile. Oh, wait a moment. His thoroughly tempered psychic senses sensed something strange. The mental attack came over, but there were no intertwining changes between the attack and the buffer as he had expected. It was empty. But there was a strand of gentle wind. There was even an even more formless beam of light that was cast inside. The wind passed through the gap, illuminating the earth. Chapter 301. Black Beetle could be considered a mentally enhanced ability user. Even though he didn't have much talent in the field of sensing and observation, he had basic common sense. If his own sensing and observation could reach the standard of being transparent and bright, being unobstructed and unobstructed, then it would naturally be excellent. The problem was that when he became the target of sensing and observation, his entire body would be leaking wind and rain. His body and mind would be exposed to the finest details. That would drive him crazy. This was what Black Beetle was feeling right now. From a realistic and understandable level, Luo Nan's face was between his palms and fingers. He just needed to reach out a little and he would be able to tear the kid's face off. But when that feeling of being unobstructed and unobstructed appeared, he felt as if his body was leaking wind from all sides. An unsuppressible feeling of weakness instantly flooded his entire body. What was going on? It was hard for Black Beetle to figure out this sudden and unforeseen event in a short amount of time. He could only see Luo Nan's eyes oozing blood through the gaps between his palms and fingers. Luo Nan's pupils were slightly dilated, unfocused, motionless, and somewhat lifeless. Just as this judgment arose in Black Beetle's mind, Luo Nan's eyeballs moved. The scattered rays of light faintly converged, and there was a bit of weak light that connected with Black Beetle's line of sight. The glimmering light was like a needle. The penetrating force was like silk. This tiny force of the needle would only cause a bit of pain if it pierced into the thick skin and flesh. But if it pierced into the eyeball, the heart, or the brain, then the result would certainly be different. This was what Black Beetle sensed. The state of being riddled with holes was unable to provide any protection, and the force of the needle was unimpeded. It pierced through and stirred at his weakest and most fatal location. In an instant, the pain was like thunder, exploding in his brain. It then rapidly spread out, unable to be controlled. Black Beetle howled in pain. His eyeballs nearly popped out of his eye sockets. Black and red crisscrossed in his field of vision. His senses were in chaos. Fear flooded his heart instinctively, but his many years of fighting experience still drove him. He summoned his remaining courage and did his utmost to reach out with his hand. He intended to take down the mischievous kid in one fell swoop. He was only a fist's distance away. His fingernails, coated with poison, only grabbed air. Black Beetle's figure continued to charge forward after his attack missed. Only now did he remember that he was in the midst of a high-speed assault. His senses were in error, and his nervous system was under stress. It completely messed up the balance of his body. F***CK. His fingers slid diagonally across the hard wall, and then his wrist bones hit the edge of the wall. Next, his head and body collided. Black Beetle's entire body was smashed into the wall of the elevator area. Under the impact of the intense pain, his body's reaction was completely ineffective. He had truly smashed into the wall without the slightest bit of cushioning. Then, he slid to the ground, the sunglasses covering his face broken. It was only then that the pain in his head showed signs of subsiding. However, the lingering pain in his fingertips, wrists, head, and torso continued. Compared to the previous wave, the degree of pain was nothing. However, the humiliation of slapping the wall and falling to the ground was like acid splashing into his chest and splashing all over his face. "I'll kill you!" Black Beetle let out a roar, and at the same time, he pulled off his already deformed sunglasses and crushed them with his palm. He ignored his chaotic vision and his terrible sense of balance. He supported himself against the wall and struggled to stand up. He waved his arms in a venting manner and controlled the beetles to fly in all directions. But everything he did was useless. He couldn't even touch a hair on Luo Nan's head. No. He needed to calm down. He needed to calm down. Black Beetle's successive attacks failed, and his emotions of fury and fear interweaved and fluctuated. Finally, there was a trough, and Black Beetle seized it. He calmed his mind with all his might, trying to break free from his current terrible state. He leaned against the wall and tried to call out to his temporary partner, "Puppeteer, Puppeteer!" F***CK. Before Puppeteer could respond, the piercing feeling came again. But this time, it didn't bring about intense pain. Instead, it brought about a sound of unknown origin. No, it was telepathy. Black Beetle smashed his hand against the wall. His heart was filled with resentment, but it was also hard for him to escape from fear. Powerhouses with formidable soul strength and proficient in corresponding techniques could indeed transmit telepathic thoughts to others. But most of the time it was done in a state of peace. In a true battle of life and death, both sides would be mentally tense and highly vigilant. This sort of one-sided telepathic infusion would certainly suffer powerful interference. It was practically impossible to guarantee the completeness and accuracy of the information. But now, the sound that rang in Black Beetle's mind, aside from the initial noise, grew clearer and clearer. Factor analysis. I've learned it before. Luo Nan's telepathic expression continued the topic they had been discussing before. It was the analysis of the factors of victory and defeat. Black Beetle had undoubtedly brought this up to ridicule Luo Nan and throw his mind into chaos. And now, Luo Nan had reversed the topic and stuffed it into Black Beetle's mind bit by bit. My analysis of the factors of victory and superiority is different from yours. Look. What I see you can't see. What I know you don't know. What I control you can't compare. What I am at you can't reach. In the end I came to a conclusion. My advantage lies outside of your poor imagination. The rough and tidy sentences and information revealed the jerkiness of being pieced together at the last minute. But the poisonous and spicy ridicule followed Luo Nan's telepathic thoughts and seeped in layer by layer until it was branded into an imprint. Crack! Black Beetle crushed a molar from his teeth. In the next moment, his emotions sputtered out along with the crushed teeth and the glow of blood. F***ck your ancestors. Black Beetle cursed crudely. His boiling energy and blood were unable to drown out the bone-chilling current in Black Beetle's mind. He knew very well that Luo Nan's telepathic thoughts weren't powerful. They were just strands. But it was hard for Black Beetle to interfere with Luo Nan's telepathic thoughts no matter what methods he used to defend. This strand of telepathic thoughts could come and go as they pleased. It wantonly painted and engraved marks on his mental plane. It was as if it had entered an uninhabited realm. It was a perfect match with the feeling of being transparent and bright, unobstructed and unobstructed. Black Beetle was unable to suppress his fear and shame. They were like two steel blades. One blade stabbed in, and the other pulled out. They took turns stabbing and chopping, shredding his dignity beyond recognition. If Luo Nan exerted just a bit more force, just a bit more. Ding! The sound of the elevator's arrival rang out in his ear. Black Beetle's vision, which had gone haywire due to the intense pain, had recovered somewhat. He was in a trance, and an afterimage flashed past the corner of his eyes. Soon, the elevator door closed once more. Luo Nan didn't make a sound at this time. A series of changes in the details were like a foreshadowing thread. It was abruptly raised, causing Black Beetle's mind to tremble. A certain thought emerged in his mind. If that kid could really finish me off so easily, why would he fight to the point of having his eyes bleed? Why would he spout so much nonsense? Black Beetle didn't have the time to think about what would happen next. He staggered half a step and turned to look at the elevator. But all he saw was the high-speed elevator door closing, and the box had already gone down. Black Beetle's somewhat blurry vision looked all around. He could see the spacious elevator area. He could see the space of the building, but where was Luo Nan's shadow? Yes. Add a bit more force. There's a problem with that kid's interference ability. It's fine if it's a pure mental attack, but it's a method that directly penetrates and affects the structure of body and soul. Luo Nan shouldn't be able to exert any force at all. F***ck me. Black Beetle cursed loudly once more. He struck the elevator door heavily, but all he did was smash a dent in the metal baffle. The elevator's floor display had already begun to change. Black Beetle no longer hesitated. He shook his head forcefully, locking onto the fire escape passageway outside the corridor. He rushed over with a few steps, smashed open the door to the stairwell, and jumped down through the narrow gap in the stairs. At the same time, he contacted his companion once more. "You're a wire manipulator? If you're not dead, say something." Hiss. "That kid is too sneaky. I nearly choked to death in the water. I nearly lost the person in my hands." Puppeteer's curses finally came back. Snake Tongue's protective spell isn't worth a fart. This is his last resort. Black Beetle gritted his teeth and said, "He's out of strength. He's running away. He won't be able to hold on for long. Keep an eye on the elevator. Number 15. I'm keeping an eye." It stopped. Floor 133. Within the crystal pillar, the Devil Ray ran side by side with the high-speed elevator. Black Beetle wasn't bad either. He borrowed strength from his elbow a few times, and his body flipped over. He accurately stopped at the stairwell of the 133rd floor. Then he smashed through the door and exited. A white-collar worker just so happened to be waiting in front of elevator number 15 in the elevator. He was the one who had interrupted the elevator's descent. This white-collar worker was startled by Black Beetle, who suddenly rushed out from the fire escape passageway. He turned his head, and Black Beetle rushed in front of him like a phantom. Black Beetle extended a hand to press down on the white-collar worker's head, fiercely smashing him against the metal door. The white-collar worker's head immediately bled, and he fainted. "Thanks for your help." Black Beetle spat out these words without any sincerity, and his mouth cracked open. His expression grew more and more malevolent, and the aura on his body nearly ignited. The necktie around his neck was like a living snake as it slithered out of the collar of his suit. A certain beetle pattern inexplicably squirmed and protruded on it. It turned into a real beetle and crawled along the necktie. All Black Beetle needed to do was wrap the necktie around Luo Nan and stuff the venomous bug down Luo Nan's throat. Who cared if Luonan lived or died? The elevator was controlled by an automatic program. It didn't care about the situation outside at all. The elevator door automatically opened after it reached its destination. Black Beetle's body leaned forward, and he was about to make his move. However, the elevator was completely empty. There wasn't a single shadow to be seen. No, there was still a paper man. This palm-sized work of art came from the same school as the other two that Black Beetle had crushed to pieces. It was also fearless and fearless. After pressing the elevator button, it stood upright on the wooden floor of the elevator, assuming a fist stance. Fuck you. The string of reason in Black Beetle's mind snapped just like that. He simply extended his palm. He ignored the pain in his palm and forcefully crushed the paper man to pieces. He didn't go down. He went back to the viewing platform. The devil ray rapidly floated up from the crystal pillar behind Black Beetle. Puppeteer gestured to Black Beetle through the protective glass, indicating for him to go up. This was an extremely normal action, but it was an absolute mockery from Black Beetle's perspective. He still hadn't truly figured out what was going on even now. He just knew that he had been played by Luonan once again. It was just like how Luonan had left an imprint on the mental plane with strands of telepathy. What I see, you can't see. What I know, you don't know. What I control, you can't compare. Where I am, you can't reach it. Ah! Chapter 302. The viewing platform had been bustling with noise and excitement. The tourists at the scene were in a state of chaos due to the devil ray breaking through the heavenly ocean lake. Some left, some alerted the police, and some joined in the fun. But by the time Luonan climbed onto the viewing platform once more, all sounds on the platform had been cut off. Several dozen people were lying on various parts of the platform, unconscious. There was no need to doubt that Luonan himself was the one who did this. According to the knowledge he had recently learned, clearing the scene before a clash between ability users was a necessary job. A complex and ever-changing scene would cause extra trouble. Of course, there were people who would deliberately create a chaotic situation in order to gain benefits. But Luonan estimated that he might not be able to be ruthless in a critical moment. He might as well do things more straightforwardly. He did not forget that there was a puppeteer on the other side, a puppeteer who could control intelligent life forms from afar. If they were to fight again, any clear-headed personnel could create obstacles for him. Luonan considered himself to be a rookie when it came to fighting. He had to carry out the experience imparted to him by his seniors in a meticulous manner. However, a certain experienced senior had already been completely stunned by the series of movements he had made earlier. How did you do it? How did you do it? How did you do it? Zhang Yingying smacked the steering wheel in excitement. The sharp honking sound was deafening even to Luonan's ears. Zhang Yingying had a belly full of words to say during the confrontation between Luonan and Black Beetle. She wanted to curse at Black Beetle, but she also wanted to comfort and remind Luonan. But she knew very well that Luonan was facing an absolutely disadvantageous match. In this life-and-death juncture, any unforeseen event could lead to a calamity. She could only suppress her worry and force herself to shut her mouth. She even had to worry about Xuelei. She didn't want her good intentions to do bad things and disturb Luonan's fight against the enemy. This conflict was more torturous than when she was fighting against a powerful enemy. She could no longer hold it in when the overall situation was decided. She let her belly full of depression explode. Zhang Yingying's pleasant surprise also spurred on Xuelei, who was climbing the stairs with great difficulty. He took a few deep breaths and praised, "Nanster, beautifully done. Leave the rest to me. I'll be right there." Luonan strolled along the edge of the viewing platform and laughed. "There's plenty of time. Slow down a bit. Don't get beaten up before you can even stand firm." Phew, don't worry. No problem." Xuelei was worried that he would affect Luonan unfavorably just now. He rushed upwards with all his might, and he even had to hold his breath. Even though he had already obtained the talisman and connected the inside and the outside, he was still quite tired. Of course, Luonan was fine. That was stronger than anything else. It didn't take long for Xuelei to adjust his state of mind when he was relaxed. Hey, Luo, I'm asking you too." Although Zhang Yingying was complaining, her excitement did not diminish at all. She still blasted the car horn loudly. "Tell me, how did you make the bug so miserable?" That guy is an egomaniac, yes, but he is definitely not a fool. Luo Nan was able to feel the pure joy from the bottom of Zhang Yingying's heart. Black Beetle could be considered an old acquaintance of hers, but Zhang Yingying stood firmly by his side at this moment. Her position was clear and unwavering. Luo Nan enjoyed this sense of recognition. He thought for a moment and replied seriously, "Correct your mentality, use your advantage, and kill them with one strike. Unfortunately, there's still a problem with my interference ability. I can only buy some time. Kill them with one strike." Crag Burst must have taught you this, right? Yes, Luo Nan admitted. It was strange to say that the classes he took these past few days, whether it was Yuan, bamboo pole, or paper cut, all leaned towards the level of knowledge and technique. They rarely touched upon strategies to deal with the enemy. Crag Burst's teaching plan was delayed due to the problem with Luo Nan's interference ability. Crag Burst had a belly full of energy. He contacted Luo Nan a few times, but every long conversation revolved around actual combat. He imparted some practical experience to Luo Nan. Crag Burst told Luo Nan that one's mentality was the most important when dealing with an enemy. It didn't matter if one was calm or hot-blooded. One must find the most suitable mentality for oneself. It might not be the most effective or the most thorough, but it was definitely the most stable. It could withstand even more variables. In short, this was an unshakable conviction. It could only be established upon the greatest, the most irreplaceable advantage. To put it in extreme terms, a person who possessed this mentality would think like this. Enemies can defeat me, but they will never be able to defeat what I am good at. Luo Nan used this principle to first confirm his own domain of advantage. Hey, you really are stupid and bold. Crag Burst and you aren't the same type, okay? Zhang Yingying had a deep understanding of Crag Burst's temperament. The more Crag Burst thought so, the more she found it hard to believe. Luo Nan, you're a mage. Can your small body handle playing with a warrior's conviction is my life? Also, your advantages? Mental senses, attacks and so on. Are they useful? Why must it be these things? Luo Nan felt a bit helpless. Whether it was Zhang Yingying or Black Beetle, they both wholeheartedly attributed Luo Nan's advantages to the range of his senses and mental attacks. But Luo Nan never believed this. There were many powerful people in the world. No matter how outstanding Luo Nan's mental senses were, no matter how fierce the human-faced arachnid siege hammer was, there would certainly be people who were stronger than him in terms of the precision and range of his senses and the intensity of his mental attacks. They might even be much stronger than him. This kind of superficial advantage would sooner or later be directly destroyed by others. His advantages could only be established upon a certain irreplaceable and unique element. You still have cards up your sleeve? Zhang Yingying was a bit skeptical. She felt that she had a better understanding of Luo Nan. She really couldn't imagine what kind of cards Luo Nan could play in a short amount of time to play with Black Beetle until he wanted to die. I heard that you're learning under teacher Xue Lei. To be able to teach a disciple like Xue Lei, you must be an extraordinary person. But it's only been a few days. Hey, Xue Lei kid. What kind of quick mastery did your master teach you? Xue Lei had already caught his breath during the time Luo Nan and Zhang Yingying were conversing. His breathing became much smoother. He answered, "It's the heart lantern of the eye's orifice. But this isn't a quick mastery technique. It's a technique for the eyes. How could it be?" Oh my! Zhang Yingying came to a realization at nearly the same time. She didn't have the time to ask Luo Nan about the profoundness of victory. She spoke in an urgent tone. Black Beetle said that the blood vessels in your eyes exploded. Did you use some sort of forbidden move? How are you now? I'm fine. Luo Nan used his knuckles to lightly rub the corners of his eyes. The pain in his eyes was still there. The blood was still flowing out, but it was a bit lighter. The more he played it down, the more Zhang Yingying didn't dare to treat it lightly. Luo Nan smashed his car horn again, but his excitement and joy had faded away. All that was left was annoyance and worry. A kid will always be a kid. His eyes. How can you mess around in this place? Hey, didn't your teacher warn you when he passed on his skills? Xue Lei was gloomy. The heart lantern of the eye's orifice is a technique of grinding. It's a gradual method. There's no such thing as a forbidden move. I see you. Xue Lei had already pounced to the 140th floor by now. He could see him with his eyes, and he was waving at Luo Nan. Even if Luo Nan had to climb the remaining 2 floors, he would still be a step ahead of his 2 enemies. It could be said that Luo Nan was already in an invincible position. Luo Nan knew that his eyes were a bit damaged from forcefully integrating the heart lantern of the eye's orifice and the domain of mental senses. He had already surpassed his limits. It would be best for him to close his eyes and rest right now. However, he didn't want things to end like this. Luo Nan held onto the protective glass at the edge of the platform. His gaze naturally cast far away. The sky grew darker and darker. Cloud City Water Village was the main part of the large living area. There was also the area of Acumen College that was even further away. All of them lit up with lights, separating blurry shadows and silhouettes. This scene was somewhat similar to the Star River scene formed from Luo Nan's mental senses. It was just that the blurry and turbid areas of the Star River scene were mostly interference formed by the power of ability users. The ones before Luo Nan's eyes were just pure light that couldn't reach them. Before today, Luo Nan had tried many times to disperse the turbid clouds and dark mist in the Star River scene. He had grasped the various details of the life sketches with greater precision, but he had never been able to achieve it. But just now, Luo Nan had successfully sent a beam of light into the deepest parts of Black Beetle's body and soul structure when he faced Black Beetle. He had drawn the clearest life sketch, and he had seen through all the weaknesses of Black Beetle's life level. Only then was he able to seize the initiative and play with Black Beetle in the palm of his hand. That beam of light originated from, or at least partially originated from, the heart lantern of the eye's orifice. The heart lantern of the eye's orifice was not the cornerstone of Luo Nan's beliefs, but this technique imparted to him by Gym Master Xiao undoubtedly played an extremely crucial role. Normally, the heart lantern took into account the functions of storing and guiding water. It carved out the spiritual orifice of the body and activated Luo Nan's soul strength. And in practical use, it hung in the air, reflecting and foreseeing the dynamic trajectory of the material plane. It complemented Luo Nan's mental senses. When viewing an object or drawing a scene, if one angle was not clear, one could often find new discoveries by switching to a different angle. By comparing the two, one could see even more. It was impossible for an independent mental senses and a pure heart lantern of the eye's orifice to achieve the miraculous effect of wind passing through gaps and light illuminating the earth. But when the two were combined, Luo Nan used his mental senses to form a Star River scene, and he used the heart lantern of the eye's orifice to sweep away the turbid clouds and dark mist. The mental and material planes coupled information, intersecting and positioning, formed a wisp of gentle wind and a beam of light. It saw through the truth hidden beneath the thick and chaotic surface. Yes, coupling. Borrowing this definition really made one's body and mind happy. Luo Nan closed his eyes and then opened them again. The light of his mental senses could already illuminate the life structure of ability users. Could it be that he was unable to illuminate the purely dusky void of the world? At this very moment, Luo Nan used a new and refined clairvoyance method to observe the void. He gazed at the silhouette of the jungle at the edge of the world. The increasingly dusky color of the sky could not obstruct him. The information on the material plane and the mental plane corresponded and connected once more. They rubbed against each other, bursting forth with a marvelous spiritual light. The light was cast into the reservoir of the heart lantern of the eye's orifice. Then it passed through the pupil, passed through the void, passed through the chaotic silhouette of the jungle, and hung above the target. The surface of the lake was like a small mirror amidst the withered leaves of the jungle. On one side was Gear. The exquisite building carried a bit of a rusty color. The long river that pierced through the forest flowed through its other corner. It made a turn at the end of one's field of view, extending into the distance. It was as if it had been washed away by time for many years. When time moved, all things moved. Chapter 303. Luo Nan quietly gazed at the world before him. He remained motionless for a long time. Even when Xue Lei flipped onto the viewing platform and called out to him, Luo Nan did not respond. Xue Lei was a bit frightened. From his perspective, Luo Nan's face was stained with blood and tears. It was painted into a devilish face. Blood seeped from the corners of Luo Nan's eyes, and Luo Nan's eyes were completely red. Luo Nan should be sent to the hospital immediately. Hey, which one of you two is going to say something? Zhang Yingying, who had been ignored for a long time, slapped the steering wheel. Sister Ying, I think Nan's state isn't right. Xue Lei was flustered. He rushed to ask Zhang Yingying for advice. However, Luo Nan's calm state of mind was very similar to Gym Master Xiu's usual demeanor. Shui Lei subconsciously lowered his voice, afraid of disturbing Luo Nan. Before he could receive a response from Zhang Yingying, Luo Nan's voice suddenly rang in his ear. The breath of heaven and earth may not be impossible to find. These words came out of nowhere. Shui Lei was stunned, but he felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity. He carefully pondered a few times before remembering that this was related to the Gym Master's fate theory. He had spoken of this to Luo Nan some time ago. However, the Gym Master's original intention was to say that the world was vast and the human strength was minuscule. Cultivators needed to constantly work hard and be attentive in all aspects. Only then could they borrow the power of heaven and earth for their own use. What stood out was that the mind was before the energy, and the energy was before the strength. The core of Luo Nan's words seemed to have changed. Shui Lei did not quite understand Luo Nan's thoughts, but he was worried about Luo Nan's state. He could only ask cautiously, Nanster? The flow and operation of the river, the existence and destruction of the forest, all have rules. They form their own systems. They can be said to have their own formats. It is these small formats that are like sets of gears naturally formed by the heavens. They are joined together to form the large format of heaven and earth. Luo Nan had already entered a state of mind. He continued speaking. From the perspective of formatting theory, the heaven and earth format is vast and boundless. It is rich in layers, and it is constantly changing. It is like a production line assembled from complex machines. Millions of gears operate in sequence, transmitting power layer by layer. Here we go again. Zhang Yingying could not help but groan. Was the scene of Luo Nan talking to himself? Luo Nan was talking to Zhang Yingying. It was like a dream. She never expected that Luo Nan would purposely oppose Zhang Yingying. While Zhang Yingying was grumbling on the other side, Luo Nan suddenly came out from his extreme self-centered state. He sought interaction and posed a question to the two. The heaven and earth format's production line won't stop working. Under such circumstances, to insert a self-made gear into the production line and make it seamless, how do I do it? The answer is coupling. Luo Nan was like a child striving to show off. He impatiently announced the answer. A smile blossomed on his bloody tear-stained face. It was extraordinarily bright and splendid. Shui Lei was stupefied once more. He didn't quite understand Luo Nan's words, but he had never seen Luo Nan have such a bright and clear appearance ever since they became acquainted. Indeed, Luo Nan was extremely delighted. The deeper his observations of gear went, the more he fell head over heels for the mysteries within. This gear building was embedded within the heaven and earth format. Rumbling production lines were added to the mix. They were precise and orderly, seamless, and there wasn't the slightest hint of artificiality. It was as if this was the natural quality of the world. If Luo Nan hadn't grasped the rhythm of heaven and earth breathing, how could this have happened? From this, Luo Nan was able to confirm an earlier guess. His mother's coupling design was closely related to formatting theory. It was like a kind of applied explanation. It demonstrated to the world how to apply formatting theory to the plane of reality. And this tangible achievement belonged to his mother. Formatting theory? Gear. Shui Lei finally found the key words in Luo Nan's words. He tried to follow the direction of Luo Nan's gaze. Under the dusky sky, Shui Lei gazed into the distance with his eyesight. He was able to make out the rough outline of the distant forest and the landmark building, but that was it. Nanster, you can see gear from here? Shui Lei was skeptical of Luo Nan's eyesight, but he was more worried. The burden of exhausting his eyesight was far too heavy in Luo Nan's current state. I can see it. It's so beautiful. Luo Nan's voice was fleeting, just like the marvelous scene before his eyes. It was impossible to touch upon the hidden mysteries of gear with the naked eye or mental sensing clairvoyance. Only the two modes of vision and mental sensing could realize information coupling and cross-positioning. Only then could one touch upon the truth behind the surface. One could look at the incorporeal law and order, silently transforming and nurturing in the void of heaven and earth. Luo Nan greedily watched all of this. He couldn't see enough no matter what. Shui Lei stomped his feet anxiously to the side. He was unable to understand the world within Luo Nan's eyes, but he was still able to grasp a thing or two about the energy emanating from Luo Nan's body. From what he understood, The energy of Luo Nan's eye's orifice was far too vigorous. It was like a wildly growing plant. It was a seedling before, but it had become a towering tree in the blink of an eye. Where did this terrifying driving force come from? Was there enough momentum? Could the structural strength of the skeleton-shaped orifice hold up? A single mishap and he would be crippled. All right. Find the gym master. The first person Xue Lei thought of when his life was at stake was still the gym master. But right when he planned to exit the three-way communications and make a call to find the gym master, Luo Nan suddenly took a deep breath. His arm was pressed against the glass of the protective fence. His head was facing down, and his eyelids drooped. He took the initiative to stop his incomprehensible gaze into the distance. He appeared extremely tired. Xue Lei rushed over. Nanster, are you okay? Why don't we take a break first? Luo Nan didn't open his eyes. He just laughed. I might be in a bit of a situation. Ha! A kind of order is like a gear. Two kinds of orders are coupled, and the gears bite together. If there's no precise design to connect them, and the difference in volume between the two sides is too large, it will be very troublesome. Xue Lei was stupefied. Zhang Yingying spoke hatefully from the other side. Don't worry about him. He's incurable. Luo Nan understood the different forms of concern and worry from his friends, but it was hard for him to continue explaining the state of his body. This was because it involved his deep secrets. The coupling relationship formed between the heart lantern of the eye's orifice and mental senses was essentially the beginning of Luo Nan's physical body cultivation. It was already in contact with a sizable formatting theory system. They could couple, but friction and collisions were unavoidable. 10 days of cultivation and 60 electric shocks to the heart lantern had clearly revealed the dangerous factors involved. Moreover, the situation had changed once again, and the trend was not good. It was like the thunderclouds high in the sky. Charged particles interweaved. Something was bound to happen. Powerful light suddenly flashed, and the external neuron was like a demon dragon that roared through the wind and thunder. It appeared in the palace of his brain, shaking off its body of electricity to bombard the heart lantern. The 61st time was stronger than any other time. This was a direct collision between the external neuron and the structure of the eye's orifice. Luo Nan had a premonition in his heart, but the intensity of this collision exceeded his expectations. His body suddenly tightened, and his mind became dizzy. He seemed to hear the sound of his eyeballs shattering in his daze. The impact his brain nerves received was transmitted to every part of his body through the tightly interwoven nervous system. His muscles, bones, blood, and fascia all twitched reflexively. Luo Nan curled up his body and crouched down. He extended his hand to cover his eyes, and tears flowed uncontrollably from his eyes. His eyeballs heated up, and his eyelids twitched wildly. It was extremely uncomfortable. Xue Lei's cry of alarm and Zhang Yingying's panicked shouts entered his ears. The two were in chaos. Yet Luo Nan's thoughts became more and more clear amidst the pain. He could even feel a slight change in the touch of his hand covering his eyes. It was not blood mixed with tears. Instead, it was more viscous. The intense and powerful pressure caused greater damage to his body. This is nothing. I know what's going on. Luo Nan calmly comforted himself. The results were very good. There was probably nothing that could shake his heart more than the discovery of the mysteries of gear in a short amount of time. Even though Luo Nan couldn't see, he still accurately grabbed Xue Lei's outstretched arm and whispered, "I'm fine. Someone's coming from behind." Luo Nan had just finished speaking when the sound of water surged from the direction of the heavenly ocean lake. It was mixed with the oppressive sound of an explosion. An enormous devil ray soared into the sky and landed heavily, raising large waves in the pool. At the same time, a figure leaped up gracefully, jumping onto the frame structure propped up above the side of the pool. The figure wore a black diving suit, revealing the strong and sturdy lines of a human body. His face wore enormous diving goggles, and he had no intention of taking them off. This was one of the members of the investigation team sent by headquarters, Puppeteer. Xue Lei turned around, protecting Luo Nan behind him. His eyes were vigilant. Puppeteer didn't express anything. He relied on his good position to look down from above. His eyes behind the diving goggles continued to size up the two people at the edge of the viewing platform. Especially Luo Nan. Puppeteer was very interested in Luo Nan's painful crouch. Only a few seconds passed, and 2 elevators arrived not far from the edge of the heavenly ocean lake. The first to come out was Black Beetle. His sunglasses were thrown away, but his face was still a bit green. His cold and sinister gaze pierced over, ignoring Shui Lei. His gaze only fell on Luo Nan's arched back. Shui Lei wasn't the least bit polite to this person. He glared fiercely at Luo Nan, but he was still a bit nervous in his heart. Luo Nan's condition was terrible to the extreme. Not only did Black Beetle have to split his attention to protect Luo Nan, but he also had to defend against 2 attacks at the same time. Alright, there was still the other elevator. Could it be the enemy's backup? The metal door of the other elevator opened just as Luo Nan was having a headache. Shui Lei was stupefied for a moment. It took him great effort to correct the direction of his perception, and he matched the identity of the person. Senior Sister Tian? The person who walked out of the elevator was none other than Tian Si. This dainty and beautiful senior sister had a deathly pale complexion. Her steps were stiff, and her upper body was in a strange posture. She crossed her hands and clutched her neck. Her strength was quite heavy, and her fingers had already sunk deep into her delicate skin. The enormous pressure caused her mouth to slightly open, and her vermilion lips to tremble. This scene was bizarre and absurd. Due to the existence of self-protection mechanisms, it was impossible for normal people to use this sort of method to strangle themselves to death. However, this was not necessarily the case in a situation where one was under the control of extraordinary power. Shui Lei gnashed his teeth as he watched. You bunch of people. You guys are members of the society. No one paid attention to him. Puppeteer spoke from above the pool, but he was pointing at Tian Si. His tone was gentle and without any distinguishing features. It was as if he was chatting normally. We've met again after a short separation, beautiful. Do you want to say something? Tian Si's lips trembled. Shui Lei's eyes and ears were sharp, but he could still hear her teeth chattering. She could be considered strong if she didn't have a mental breakdown after such a bizarre and savage method fell on her body. With great difficulty, Tian Si managed to squeeze out a few trembling words from her throat. I've been taking the stairs all this time. Everyone on the viewing platform was stupefied. Only Luo Nan, who had fallen to one knee amidst the pain, laughed in spite of himself, though his laughter was a bit shaky. He didn't turn his head. He just raised an arm. Chapter 304. Luo Nan quietly gazed at the world before him. He remained motionless for a long time. Even when Shui Lei flipped onto the viewing platform and called out to him, Luo Nan did not respond. Shui Lei was a bit frightened. From his perspective, Luo Nan's face was stained with blood and tears. It was painted into a devilish face. Blood seeped from the corners of Luo Nan's eyes, and Luo Nan's eyes were completely red. Luo Nan should be sent to the hospital immediately. Hey, which one of you two is going to say something? Zhang Yingying, who had been ignored for a long time, slapped the steering wheel. Sister Ying, I think Nanster's state isn't right. Shui Lei was flustered. He rushed to ask Zhang Yingying for advice. However, Luo Nan's calm state of mind was very similar to Gym Master Xiao's usual demeanor. Shui Lei subconsciously lowered his voice, afraid of disturbing Luo Nan. Before he could receive a response from Zhang Yingying, Luo Nan's voice suddenly rang in his ear. The breath of heaven and earth may not be impossible to find. These words came out of nowhere. Shui Lei was stunned, but he felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity. He carefully pondered a few times before remembering that this was related to the Gym Master's fate theory. He had spoken of this to Luo Nan some time ago. However, the Gym Master's original intention was to say that the world was vast and the human strength was minuscule. Cultivators needed to constantly work hard and be attentive in all aspects. Only then could they borrow the power of heaven and earth for their own use. What stood out was that the mind was before the energy, and the energy was before the strength. The core of Luo Nan's words seemed to have changed. Shui Lei did not quite understand Luo Nan's thoughts, but he was worried about Luo Nan's state. He could only ask cautiously, Nanster? The flow and operation of the river, the existence and destruction of the forest, all have rules. They form their own systems. They can be said to have their own formats. It is these small formats that are like sets of gears naturally formed by the heavens. They are joined together to form the large format of heaven and earth. Luo Nan had already entered the state of mind. He continued speaking. From the perspective of formatting theory, the heaven and earth format is vast and boundless. It is rich in layers and changes. It is like a production line assembled from complex machines. Tens of thousands of gears operate in sequence, transmitting power layer by layer. Here we go again. Zhang Yingying could not help but groan. The scene of her talking to herself was simply a replica of that night at Frost River reality. Unfriendly thoughts and concepts assaulted her face. She never expected that Luo Nan would purposely oppose Zhang Yingying. While Zhang Yingying was grumbling on the other side, Luo Nan suddenly came out from his extreme self-centered state. He sought interaction and posed a question to the two. The heaven and earth format's production line won't stop working. Under such circumstances, to insert a self-made gear into the production line and make it seamless, how do I do it? The answer is coupling. Luo Nan was like a child striving to show off. He impatiently announced the answer. A smile blossomed on his bloody tear-stained face. It was extraordinarily bright and splendid. Xuelei was stupefied once more. He didn't quite understand Luo Nan's words, but he had never seen Luo Nan have such a bright and clear appearance ever since they became acquainted. Indeed, Luo Nan was extremely delighted. The deeper his observations of gear went, the more he fell head over heels for the mysteries within. This gear building was embedded within the heaven and earth format. Rumbling production lines were added to the mix. They were precise and orderly, seamless, and there wasn't the slightest hint of artificiality. It was as if this was the natural quality of the world. If Luo Nan hadn't grasped the rhythm of heaven and earth breathing, how could this have happened? From this, Luo Nan was able to confirm an earlier guess. His mother's coupling design was closely related to formatting theory. It was like a kind of applied explanation. It demonstrated to the world how to apply formatting theory to the plane of reality. And this tangible achievement belonged to his mother. Formatting theory? Gear. Xuelei finally found the key words in Luo Nan's words. He tried to follow the direction of Luo Nan's gaze. He gazed into the distance with his eyesight under the dusky sky. He was able to make out the rough outlines of the distant forest and the landmark building, but that was it. Nanster, you can see gear from here? Xuelei was skeptical of the level of Luo Nan's eyesight, but he was more worried. The burden of exhausting his eyesight in Luo Nan's current state was far too heavy. I can see it. It's so beautiful. Luo Nan's voice was fleeting, just like the marvelous scene before his eyes. It was impossible to touch upon the hidden mysteries of gear with the naked eye or mental sensing clairvoyance. Only the two modes of vision and mental sensing could realize information coupling and cross-positioning. Only then could one touch upon the truth behind the surface. One could see the formless law and order, silently transforming and nurturing in the void of heaven and earth. Luo Nan greedily watched all of this. He couldn't see enough no matter what. Xuelei stomped his feet anxiously to the side. He was unable to understand the world within Luo Nan's eyes, but he was still able to grasp a bit of the energy emanating from Luo Nan's body. From what he understood, the energy of Luo Nan's eye's orifice was far too vigorous. It was like a wildly growing plant. It was a seedling before, but it had become a towering tree in the blink of an eye. Where did this terrifying driving force come from? Was the after effect enough? Could the structural strength of the skeleton-shaped orifice hold up? A single mishap and he would be crippled. All right. Find the gym master. The first person Xuelei thought of when his life was at stake was still the gym master. But right when he planned to exit the three-way communications and make a call to find the gym master, Luo Nan suddenly took a deep breath. His arm was pressed against the glass of the protective fence. His head was facing down, and his eyelids drooped. He took the initiative to stop his incomprehensible gaze into the distance. He appeared extremely tired. Xuelei rushed over. Nanster, are you okay? Why don't we take a break first? Luo Nan didn't open his eyes. He just laughed. I might be in a bit of a situation. Ha! A kind of order is like a gear. Two kinds of orders are coupled, and the gears bite together. If there's no precise design to connect them, and the difference in volume between the two is too large, then it will be very troublesome. Xuelei was stupefied. Zhang Yingying spoke hatefully from the other side. Don't worry about him. He's incurable. Luo Nan understood the different forms of concern and worry from his friends, but it was hard for him to continue explaining the situation with his body. This was because it involved his deep secrets. The coupling relationship formed between the heart lantern of the eye's orifice and mental senses was essentially the contact between Luo Nan's body cultivation and the sizable formatting theory system. They could couple, but friction and collisions were unavoidable. 10 days of cultivation and 60 electric shocks to the heart lantern had clearly revealed the dangerous factors involved. Moreover, the situation had changed once again, and the trend was not good. It was like the thunderclouds high in the sky. Charged particles interweaved. Something was bound to happen. A powerful light suddenly flashed, and the external neuron was like a demon dragon that roared through the wind and thunder. It appeared in the palace of Luo Nan's brain, shaking off a body of electricity to bombard the heart lantern. The 61st time was stronger than any other time. This was a direct collision between the external neuron and the structure of the eye's orifice. Luo Nan had a premonition in his mind, but the intensity of this collision exceeded his expectations. His body suddenly tightened, and his mind became dizzy. He seemed to hear the sound of his eyeballs shattering in his daze. The impact his brain nerves received was transmitted to every part of his body through his tightly interwoven nervous system. His muscles, bones, blood, and fascia all twitched reflexively. Luo Nan curled up his body and crouched down. He reached out his hand to cover his eyes, and tears flowed uncontrollably from his eyes. His eyeballs heated up, and his eyelids twitched wildly. It was extremely uncomfortable. Xuelei's cry of alarm and Zhang Yingying's panicked shouts entered his ears. The two were in chaos. Luo Nan's thoughts became more and more clear amidst the pain. He could even feel a slight change in the touch of his hand covering his eyes. It wasn't blood mixed with tears. Instead, it was more viscous. The intense and powerful pressure caused greater damage to his body. This is nothing. I know what's going on. Luo Nan calmly comforted himself. The results were very good. There was probably nothing that could shake his heart more than the discovery of the mysteries of gear in a short amount of time. Even though his eyes couldn't see, he still accurately grabbed Xuelei's outstretched arm and whispered, "I'm fine. Someone's coming from behind." The sound of water surged from the direction of the heavenly ocean lake just as Luo Nan finished speaking. It was mixed with a muffled explosion. An enormous devil ray soared into the sky and landed heavily, raising large waves in the pool. At the same time, a figure leaped up gracefully, jumping onto the frame structure propped up above the side of the pool. The figure wore a black diving suit, revealing the strong and sturdy lines of a human body. His face wore enormous diving goggles, and he had no intention of taking them off. This was one of the members of the investigation team sent by headquarters, Puppeteer. Xuelei turned around, protecting Luo Nan behind him. His eyes were vigilant. Puppeteer didn't express anything. He relied on his good position to look down from above. His eyes behind the diving goggles continued to size up the two people at the edge of the viewing platform. Especially Luo Nan. Puppeteer was very interested in Luo Nan's painful crouching state. Only a few seconds passed, and two elevators arrived not far from the edge of the heavenly ocean lake. The first to come out was Black Beetle. His sunglasses were thrown away, but his face was still a bit green. His cold and sinister gaze pierced over. He ignored Xuelei, only landing on Luo Nan's arched back. Xuelei wasn't the least bit polite to this person. He glared fiercely at Luo Nan, but he was still a bit nervous in his heart. Luo Nan's condition was terrible to the extreme. Not only did Black Beetle have to split his attention to protect Luo Nan, but he also had to defend against attacks from two sides at the same time. Oh right, there was still an elevator. Could it be the enemy's backup? The metal door of the other elevator opened just as Xuelei was having a headache. Xuelei was stupefied for a moment, but he managed to correct the direction of his understanding with great difficulty. Senior Sister Tian? The person who walked out of the elevator was none other than Tian Si. This dainty and beautiful senior sister had a deathly pale complexion. Her steps were stiff, and her upper body was in a strange posture. She crossed her hands and clutched her neck. Her strength was quite heavy, and her fingers had already sunk deep into her delicate skin. The enormous pressure caused her mouth to open slightly, and her vermilion lips to tremble. This scene was bizarre and absurd. Due to the existence of self-protection mechanisms, It was impossible for normal people to use this sort of method to strangle themselves to death. However, this was not necessarily the case in a situation where one was under the control of extraordinary power. Shui Lei gnashed his teeth as he watched. You bunch of people. You guys are members of the society. No one paid attention to him. Puppeteer spoke from above the pool, but he was pointing at Tianxi. His tone was gentle and without any distinguishing features. It was as if he was chatting normally. We've met again after a short separation, beautiful. Do you want to say something? Tianxi's lips trembled. Shui Lei's eyes and ears were sharp, but he could still hear her teeth chattering. She could be considered strong if she didn't have a mental breakdown after such a bizarre and savage method fell on her body. With great difficulty, Tianxi managed to squeeze out a few trembling words from her throat. I've been taking the stairs all this time. Everyone on the viewing platform was stupefied. Only Luo Nan, who had fallen to one knee amidst the pain, laughed in spite of himself, though his laughter was a bit shaky. He didn't turn his head. He just raised an arm. It's my fault. Chapter 305. On the entire viewing platform, only Luo Nan was able to understand the feeling of grievance in Tianxi's words. She really did follow Luo Nan's instructions. She walked down the stairs of the fire escape. No matter how tired she was, she didn't ask for help from the elevator. She stayed far away from the central crystal pillar, but she was still unable to escape Puppeteer's demonic claws. She was controlled and taken hostage. Of course, the grievance was secondary. Tianxi felt more fear. She was an intelligent person. She guessed that the current momentum of victory and defeat between the two sides from the choices made by Puppeteer and Black Beetle should have been reversed. Otherwise, there would be no meaning in her being a hostage. Her value to the kidnappers was to threaten Luo Nan. But what value did she have to Luo Nan? Why would he give up the great situation of reversing the hopeless situation and take the risk to rescue her? This situation nearly made Tianxi fall into despair. However, she could only place her hopes on Luo Nan. She was all the more afraid that Luo Nan would turn a blind eye because of the inconvenience. So her expression of grievance came from her heart, but it was more or less a deliberate expression. She only hoped that she could arouse a bit of Luo Nan's understanding and sympathy, so that she could redeem a bit more of a chance at survival. Luo Nan's raised arm gave Tianxi a bit of comfort. However, her reaction couldn't satisfy others. Puppeteer sighed in the air above Heavenly Ocean Lake. He slid his body to the middle of the pool's edge along the frame structure above the pool. He crooked his finger at Tianxi. Tianxi's feet involuntarily leaned towards the swimming pool. When she got closer, her left thumb pressed against her lower jaw. She violently turned her face around and lifted it up slightly, forcing her to look up at the master who currently controlled her life. Come. Let's work together. Puppeteer crouched down. He even lowered a hand to indicate to Tianxi. His diving goggles covered half of his face. His mouth cracked open, revealing his snow-white teeth in a smile. The shape of Puppeteer's face wasn't bad. He had the flavor of a sunny man, but Tianxi was completely drowned in fear under this smile. She could only watch helplessly. She was like a marionette. Her entire body was under the control of someone else. She extended a hand upward, connecting it with Puppeteer's palm. Then she was pulled up. Under the rough movements, she felt that her arm was about to be dislocated. She couldn't help but let out a painful groan, but the sound was quickly squeezed back. Puppeteer used his own hand in place of Tianxi's. He forcefully grabbed her neck and carefully sized her up face to face. He was very satisfied with Tianxi's complexion, which had turned from deathly pale to flushed from fear and suffocation. He took a deep breath in her hair and savored the delicate fragrance of her hair. At the same time he laughed. Beauty, whether you're willing or not, we're one. Tianxi was really about to suffocate. Right now, she had regained some control over her body, but she could only helplessly move Puppeteer's steel-like arm. She struggled with her legs. Apart from that, she couldn't do anything else. Puppeteer lifted Tianxi's slender neck. His footsteps were light as he returned to his original position. During this process, Tianxi struggled with her hands and feet at first, but she quickly ran out of strength. Her body went limp, and her eyes were filled with despair. At this time, Puppeteer's gaze had already turned to Luo Nan. Even though Luo Nan was still half squatting at the edge of the viewing platform, not even turning his body around, Puppeteer's eyes behind his diving goggles were firmly fixed on Luo Nan. He wouldn't relax in the slightest. As for Black Beetle, he stood in front of Heavenly Ocean Lake with a cold expression. He blocked the only path to rescue Tianxi. Even so, Puppeteer still felt that it wasn't too safe. He continued, I must admit that we underestimated your abilities, Mr. Luo Nan. We underestimated your transcendent mental attack. Our plans were ruined. So we learned our lesson and decided to calmly chat and discuss things. We'll solve the problem. For the sake of ensuring this, I specifically made a safety wire. Thank you for your cooperation, Beauty. Right now, I have a bit of a connection with her on the mental plane. Any experience I receive will be fairly shared with her. In terms of endurance, I have some self-confidence that I can surpass this delicate beauty. An attack that's enough to defeat me has a high chance of defeating the other first. So, right now I can only hope that the relationship between the two of you is sufficiently close. Having said this, Puppeteer turned to look at Tianxi. Speaking of which, Beauty, have you two slept together yet? No. That's better if you haven't. Perhaps Mr. Luo Nan will feel that it's a pity. Puppeteer obviously hoped to receive a response from Luo Nan after his excellent performance, but Xuelei only sent him a gaze of loathing. The main character, Luo Nan, still maintained his original posture. He had even retracted his apologetic arm. It was unknown whether it was due to the effects of his injuries, or whether it was due to his disdain for his defeated subordinate. Puppeteer sighed. He had no choice but to urge Luo Nan, Mr. Luo Nan, it's best if we don't waste any more time. Even if the police are idiots, they should come back to their senses by now. Everyone should resolve this as soon as possible and go home. That would be excellent. Luo Nan still didn't respond. TSK. Are all youngsters this cold these days? Then, allow me to warm things up first. I'll play a little trick with my temporary beauty partner. A smile returned to Puppeteer's face. He raised his arm horizontally, placing Tianxi above the water's surface. After breaking through the tempered glass at the bottom of the pool, the Heavenly Ocean Lake will probably be the deepest swimming pool in the world. It's 800 meters deep. I have a feeling that the beauty partner next to me has pretty good swimming skills. She's enough to deal with those cute little kids, middle-aged friends, and older friends. Why don't we give it a try first? Tianxi had already given up on struggling, but as Puppeteer's words entered her ears, the strength in his hand mercilessly increased. He forcefully squeezed out what little potential she had, forcing her to struggle with her hands and feet. She was unable to speak, and her originally beautiful pupils rolled upwards. Excellent. Beautiful, you have quite the camera feel. Puppeteer laughed even more happily. His hand casually swayed a few times, causing Tianxi to struggle even more painfully. Let us officially begin. The first act of the hero saving the beauty. Action. The water of the Heavenly Ocean Lake splashed as soon as Puppeteer's words fell. A terrifying shadow broke through the water's surface, leaping 6 to 7 meters into the air. It brushed past the soles of Tianxi's feet, and its long tail lashed out. It took the opportunity to slice off one of Tianxi's high heels, and the other fell down amidst her struggle. Shoes, huh? My other partner is quite protective of the fairer sex. However, I'll tell it that the next step is your delicate little feet. Do you want them to be symmetrical? The ice-cold water vapor and the scorching killing intent assaulted her at the same time. Tianxi could no longer hold herself back, and tears poured down her face. She cried noiselessly just like that, and the barrier of her willpower completely collapsed. At the edge of the viewing platform, Luo Nan's eyes were still closed, but his eyelids trembled twice. He exerted strength with great difficulty to support himself against the protective glass. He slowly stood up, turned around, and faced the two fiends head-on, but he still didn't open his mouth. Black Beetle turned his head and locked gazes with Puppeteer when he saw Luo Nan's situation. Both of them thought of the word backlash in their minds. Black Beetle then chuckled. You're also trash as a director. Are we still in the era of silent films? You're just doing voiceovers. Where's the dubbing? Puppeteer didn't mind. He gave a light praise. Good idea. Puppeteer loosened his grip a bit as soon as he finished speaking, allowing Tianxi's sobs to pass through her airway with great difficulty. They squeezed out strands by strands. Tianxi's oppressive breath of despair pierced through the sound of the heavenly ocean lake's water. It entered Shui Lei's ears intermittently, causing his teeth to creak. However, Zhang Yingying had given him orders time and time again that he absolutely could not act impulsively. This was to prevent Black Beetle and Puppeteer from taking advantage of a loophole. Shui Lei had no other choice but to grit his teeth. Luo Nan, on the other hand, maintained a calm expression even though his eyes were closed and blood was flowing. He could even be said to be callous. The situation was still deadlocked. Puppeteer had a big headache when faced with this master who wouldn't be moved by force or persuasion. In the end, time stood on the opposing side in Xia City. Puppeteer could only confront Luo Nan while using his own channels to contact him and ask for advice. A few seconds later, he snapped his fingers. How about this? Let's change methods. Beauty, beauty, don't cry. Let me ask you something. This callous boy in front of us, were you on a date just now? Now he's crying his eyes blind. Why? Can you tell me? Tianxi's willpower had collapsed. She thought she was dead. How could she respond? Puppeteer shook his head. How about this? For the sake of fairness, I'll tell you a secret first. Our other partner. As he spoke, the mutant devil ray broke through the surface of the water once more. It leaped into the air, but it didn't fall according to the laws of physics. Instead, it resisted gravity and floated beneath the dome, circling around Tianxi's body. Our partner can actually fly. This way, he can use his large mouth to meticulously grind away the skin and flesh of your little foot bit by bit. He can slowly chomp down. It's better for digestion. So, let's work together a bit more? As he spoke, the devil ray's long tail of electricity had already wrapped around Tianxi's calf. It hooked onto her stockings a bit, coiled up, and gradually tightened. Tianxi felt the sensation of a snake coiling around her calf. There was even the numbing power of electricity. Her entire body trembled, and the gurgling sound of her throat mixed with her hoarse sobs. She just wanted to faint. But under Puppeteer's control, this became an extravagant hope. Pay attention to the time, Puppeteer reminded her one last time. Tianxi's thoughts were in complete chaos. Fear ruled over everything. It was like the claws of a demon probing into her brain and rummaging. Whatever was inside, it would be pulled out. Because of gear. Gear is senior sister Qingwen's masterpiece. You can see it here. Gear? That's the society building we went to first, right? Puppeteer tilted his head and continued to ask. Senior sister Qingwen? Who's that? It's junior brother Luo Nan's mother. I have a bit of an impression, but it doesn't seem to be of much use. Puppeteer spoke, but he glanced in Luo Nan's direction from the corner of his eye. Black Beetle stared in that direction with fixed eyes. He suddenly thought of something and contacted someone through his wristband. Hello, you guys are still in gear, right? Oh right, it's that society building. Hurry up and prove it. Idiot, isn't it easy to break something, set it on fire, or something? As he spoke, he raised his arm horizontally and turned on the speaker function. He turned the volume to the maximum. A short second later, a loud crashing sound accompanied by crashing noises could be heard. There was no sign of it stopping. Chapter 306. Black Beetle knew that Luo Nan's current injuries were mostly due to the backlash of the secret technique. It had little to do with their methods. But this didn't affect Black Beetle's good mood. He climbed back onto the viewing platform, and his taut face relaxed for the first time. He hissed and laughed at his wristband. Snake tongue. Beautiful snake tongue. I love you to death. Keep going. Keep going. Smash something that looks more memorable. A hoarse male voice came through the wristband's external speaker. Don't try to get close to snake tongue if you don't have anything to do. I was the one who did it. Next, destroy the building and smash the outer wall. How about it? Tank, I love you too. Black Beetle was overly excited. His mouth was extremely greasy, and he smacked Luo Nan with the side of his face. He didn't conceal his delight in the slightest. Oh, I'm sorry. I know this move is a bit childish, but it's effective. Especially when I look at your face. This is the expression I want. Luo Nan didn't say anything, but Shuelei couldn't hold back from cursing. You lowly scum. If you have the guts, let's fight face to face. I'll smash your head flat with 3 punches. Black Beetle's sinister gaze swiveled over. He grinned, revealing his deep red tongue and white teeth. A deep darkness seeped through. That's quite unfortunate. I'm not interested right now. Right now, I just feel that it's a pity. Soon, Black Beetle's gaze switched, and it pierced Luo Nan's face like a poisonous dart. It's a pity that the Hexa ear malfunctioned today. Otherwise, we could do a live broadcast and see Tank's ability to demolish houses. Oh, I forgot. The wristband works too. Cloud City Water Village's network is quite stable. Luo Nan let out a light breath. He reached out to press down on Shuelei, who was about to explode. He leaned back against the protective glass and spoke hoarsely. Stop messing around. What do you guys want to know? Oh. You finally know how to respond. Black Beetle saw Luo Nan admit defeat. How could he not know that success was at hand? He felt a cool and refreshing air pour down from the top of his head. He felt refreshed to the core. But even so, his miserable experience on the 141st floor was like a volcano crater. It caused a disturbance in his heart. It wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. Black Beetle didn't make a sound. He just slowly smoothed out the tie in his hand and put it back on his neck. He flipped it left and right, gesturing it back and forth. During this time, the muffled sound of someone smashing the wall could be heard from the loudspeaker on the wristband. Even though Luo Nan was holding him down, Shuelei was still hopping mad. You son of a bitch! You came here specifically to destroy people. Black Beetle laughed involuntarily. Don't be anxious. This is just the beginning. If I don't smash it for an hour or two, I won't be able to see any effect. Ugh. Before he even finished speaking, Black Beetle's mouth suddenly couldn't close. The rest of his words were stuck in his throat. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't close them. During this process, his face turned red, green, and purple. It was as if an invisible hand of a demon had covered his mouth and nose, isolating him from the outside world. A feeling of suffocation engulfed his entire body. After that, he felt the pain of needles piercing into his brain. His vision went black and red again, and his nerves went haywire. His entire body was stiff and trembling. Luo Nan's voice was like a cool breeze that brushed past her ear. You actually didn't make a safety wire? How unfortunate. Black Beetle struggled in pain. His eyeballs were about to pop out of their sockets. He strove to mobilize his extraordinary power, but for some reason, the mental attack he suffered this time was 10 times more violent than last time. The aftermath of the attack didn't fade. He exerted force with great difficulty, but all he could do was touch his gaudy tie. He grabbed it with force, finding it hard to make any further movements. Puppeteer exploded with a shout from above Heavenly Ocean Lake. Mr. Luo Nan, everyone, don't act excessively. We can talk this out. Puppeteer saw Luo Nan turn his head to look at him just as he shouted. Puppeteer's blood-red eyes made contact with Luo Nan's heart go slightly cold. Luo Nan whispered, What do you mean by excessively? Me or him? Puppeteer adjusted his mood and forced a smile. There's no need for us to be so intense. This is just a routine investigation. Look, I haven't harmed a single hair on this beauty from beginning to end. I was just playing a joke. I was just trying to scare her, right? Then I smashed my mother's masterpiece. That's... Luo Nan lowered his head slightly. His body movements were full of exhaustion. It was as if he was organizing his words. Black Beetle doesn't have the attitude to communicate with me normally. Actually, even now, I don't know what you guys want to do. There's only fighting and killing, humiliation, and damage. Puppeteer cursed in his mind. He cursed Luo Nan, and he cursed Black Beetle. Black Beetle had seen the series of conflicts from start to finish. Luo Nan's claim that he didn't know was certainly nonsense. However, it was an indisputable fact that Black Beetle prioritized revenge over obtaining information. In fact, Puppeteer himself rather admired Black Beetle's behavior. On this point, the two of them had a common language. When all was said and done, they didn't take Luo Nan seriously in the beginning. They just wanted to deal with a half-crippled, half-grown child once they finished their defenses. Black Beetle's actions were excessively unbridled. Evil karma begets evil karma. In the end, Black Beetle had to swallow the karma. Puppeteer was stronger than Black Beetle in one aspect. He was more nimble. Puppeteer knew that he needed to change his methods. He discussed things with the people behind him, and he revealed a sunny smile. Mr. Luo Nan, we are both members of the society. I believe that we can carry out a calm and peaceful exchange. I've already told them to stop over at Gear. If the exchange goes smoothly, not only will they withdraw at first notice, but they will also send the best engineering team to restore all the damage done. They will also pay $1 million in compensation. Are you satisfied with this sincerity? Luonan didn't respond, but he didn't refuse. Puppeteer felt that the change in trajectory was a success. His smile grew more and more brilliant. Mr. Luonan, both sides are expressing sincerity. Look at Black Beetle. The corner of Luonan's lips twitched. Is he affecting our exchange? Puppeteer was a bit startled, but the smile on his face remained the same. No, he's not affected. How? It was true that Black Beetle's entire body was stiff, but his mind was still clear. His eyes and ears were still useful. Puppeteer's words all fell into his ears. This nearly caused his heart to explode. He exerted all the strength in his body to twist his body, but he lost his sense of balance under the mental attack. He didn't twist his body. Instead, he fell down, his face smashing heavily into the ground. Since Puppeteer had made up his mind, he didn't even spare a glance in that direction. He just muttered to himself, wondering if the safety wire in his hand was truly effective. Luonan spoke at this time. Speak. What do you guys want to know? Puppeteer composed himself and calculated the time. He smiled and tossed out a series of words. On the night of October 7th, the Society's Xia City branch clashed with the Order of Justice at Frost River Reality on Fudong Main Street in the city center. Branch President Ouyang Chen intervened in the later stages of the conflict. He erected the so-called logic world. From that point on, many things are unclear. This is disadvantageous to headquarters in restoring the truth of the matter and upholding justice for everyone. Luonan also laughed. You guys should go ask President Ouyang. 1 for personal gain, 2 for public gain. One-sided testimonies are very hard to accept. We learned through special channels that Mr. Luonan, by chance, entered the logic world through an out-of-body state. You are an extremely important witness. So we want to ask. What special channels? Luonan was very curious. Puppeteer's face finally turned cold. Mr. Luonan, no matter how you say it, this is an investigation by headquarters. I hope that everyone can correct their attitudes. Don't create any side issues and don't want to see consequences to appear. Luonan nodded. He no longer interrupted. As Puppeteer stared at Luonan's face and spoke in a deep voice. We want to know what you saw in the logic world. Narrow down the scope a bit. What did Ouyang Chen do? What did An Wang of the Order of Justice do? Why did he do this? Then he disappeared without a trace. Where did he go? There are many things that I don't know. Tell us everything you know. This will take a long time. Mr. Luonan. Puppeteer took a deep breath. His fingers exerted more pressure on Tianxi's slender neck, using her painful struggle to express his mood. Since we all know that this will take a long time, why not be a bit more nimble? Actually, Shuelei was itching to give it a try at this time, but he was stopped once more. Luonan leaned against the protective glass and muttered to himself for a moment. He said, if you want to know An Wang's actions back then, you must understand what the logic world created by President Ouyang is. Puppeteer raised his voice. Mr. Luo, our time is precious. Before Puppeteer's voice could fall, an order came from behind. Let him continue. This information is very valuable. Puppeteer's face twitched, and he instantly switched to a smile. So, please be concise and comprehensive. Luonan ignored the change in Puppeteer's expression. He just minded his own business and spoke several seconds later. If you view the mental plane as countless layers of fluttering cloth. Puppeteer cursed inwardly. F***CK. He had no choice but to interrupt Luonan once more. The world recognizes that the mental plane is divided into 3 zones, 1 region, and 1 domain. Where did your countless layers come from? Luonan did not speak. He raised his eyelids, and his blood-red eyes faced Puppeteer. Perhaps he could not see clearly, but he maintained this posture until Puppeteer felt that he was an incurable idiot. Puppeteer's eyelids twitched. Mr. Luo? Luonan had kept his eyes open for too long. His eyes burned with pain, so he simply closed his eyes and adjusted his breathing. 5 or 6 seconds passed before he said, "Through the formatting theory created by my grandfather, I observe the mental world." It's just like that. Do you need me to explain what formatting theory is? Ah. The relationship between the self, society, and heaven and earth format should be relatively easy for ability users to understand. I remember that President Ouyang did some elaborations on self-logic and secular logic. You guys aren't so stubborn that you don't know anything about this, right? 4 or 5 new concepts popped up one after another, causing Puppeteer to be a bit dazed. Luckily, he quickly received instructions from the rear. He corrected the direction of the topic. We can postpone the theory lesson. Right now you can directly describe it. First, what do you know about the logic world? Second, what is the result of an Wang being in the logic world? Then I won't use a curtain to describe it. Luonan raised his head slightly and adopted a posture of reminiscence. The logic world. Now that I think about it, it's probably a part of the heaven and earth format that was forcefully dismantled and pieced together into a temporary production line. In terms of composition, it is a part of the heaven and earth format. In terms of rules, the self format is the yardstick. The heaven and earth format is temporarily included in the scope of the self format, using a small gear to drive a large gear. The coupling structure here is truly exquisite. Format your sister. Gear your mother. Puppeteer felt that his ability to understand had been insulted. He wanted to immediately snap Tianxi's neck, but Luonan's voice drifted over just as this thought passed through his mind. Chapter 307. The mutant devil ray circled back and forth in the heavenly ocean lake. Its developed wing-like pectoral fins stirred up wave after wave in the lake. It looked a bit impatient, just like Puppeteer's current mood. The smile on his face was still there, but most of his muscles were stiff. At this time, a low and cold voice entered his ears from behind, but he did not know where it came from. Could it be that you really hope to dig out something right now and obtain a great merit? There really is a problem with your comprehension ability. Puppeteer's face turned hot, and he wanted to curse in his heart. But just as he thought this, the voice from behind seemed to see through his internal organs. Instead of cursing silently, it's better to think of a way to continue attracting the opponent's attention. Move your mouth. Puppeteer secretly clenched his teeth, but he had just been reprimanded. There was still support behind it, so his heart was able to twist a bit. He slightly moved the muscles on his face and did his best to reply calmly. Mr. Luonan can continue. As he spoke, Puppeteer confirmed the time once more. He also confirmed that the recording was on. He made up his mind. No matter what Luonan said, he would just let Luonan speak. He would just ignore it and go back to analyze it in detail. Formatting theory, right? What grandfather and grandmother? When I get back, I'll make you reveal the color of your entire family's underwear. Luonan seemed to truly believe Puppeteer's words. His eyes remained closed and he spoke expressionlessly. Then I'll continue speaking. I just finished talking about the logic world. Next, I can describe an Wang's situation. Finish my ass. Puppeteer's gaze looked down behind the enormous diving goggles. He did his utmost to filter out all information related to Luonan, but even so, Luonan's voice still penetrated through. It was simply like the whispers of a devil, stirring up Puppeteer's emotions layer by layer. I'm not clear on what an Wang is doing. I can only say what I observe and understand. You must know that the levels of the heaven and earth format are extremely rich. The interference between the material plane and the mental plane can form countless kinds of order frames. Oh, you definitely don't understand this part. Fuck. The devil ray echoed Puppeteer's emotions. Within the heavenly ocean lake, the devil ray forcefully flapped its pectoral fins and wings once more, creating a rumbling explosion. Water sprayed everywhere, drenching most of Tianxi's skirt and stockings. However, she was already completely unresponsive. Puppeteer wanted to kill. Right now, he was incomparably convinced that Luonan had done this on purpose. That kid had seized on the fact that Luonan didn't understand, to torment and ridicule him back and forth. Alright, did Luonan really think that Luonan was a Buddha who wouldn't get angry or angry? Luonan stopped talking, but he didn't even open his eyes. He calmly waited for the noise created by the devil ray to pass. You want to blow the fuse? Maybe the kid was waiting for you to do that. At that time, my useless protection spell won't be able to protect you. Luonan didn't open his mouth, but the rear darkly warned Puppeteer. In the end, Puppeteer concluded with an ice-cold order. Don't let me be distracted by you again. After being reprimanded again, even Puppeteer's anger turned into ashes. He suddenly came to a realization. What was Luonan's goal in this round of taunting and stabbing? If what the rear said was really to provoke him to cut off the safety wire himself, then their intentions were really deep. On the surface, Puppeteer had said that he and Tianxi shared mental attacks, but Luonan could presumably see that the connection between the two was actually unequal after these few rounds. Tianxi was being tormented to the point of hovering between life and death, while Puppeteer was quite relaxed. In reality, even if Luonan's mental attack came, Puppeteer had the confidence to block the first wave. He relied on Tianxi in his hands. She was a good conductor. She was enough to minimize the damage to himself. And if he made a mistake and cut off his own path of retreat, what would happen to him? Just look at Black Beetle in front of him. He was a living example. Many complex thoughts flashed through Puppeteer's mind, but a thin layer of cold sweat covered his back. He immediately loosened his fingers and even sent a bit of vital energy into Tianxi to avoid giving her more pressure. He also helped her smooth out her blood and energy. He was afraid that his emotions would be too extreme and he would really strangle the safety wire on the spot, pushing the situation into an unsalvageable situation. He still had to explain to Luonan. Sorry. Mutants aren't easy to control. I didn't interrupt your train of thought, did I? Luonan was silent for a moment. His voice became a bit deeper. I coined the term order frame. It's normal that you don't understand it. So ask yourself, do you need further explanation? Puppeteer stared at Luonan's face. The more he looked, the more he felt that he had dodged a calamity. Otherwise, what would he explain? Would he return the favor with aplomb? He was just trying to cover it up. Youngsters these days had ruthless hearts. Puppeteer's mind relaxed and tightened. From the looks of it, Luonan still harbored thoughts of direct conflict with them. Perhaps the society's reinforcements were about to arrive. Puppeteer needed to be a bit more careful and make more preparations. Speaking of which, the rear wasn't ready yet? In any case, Puppeteer adjusted his mentality. He accepted his fate. He wouldn't get pregnant just by listening to it. What was there to be afraid of? He put on his signature sunny smile. Of course, it's best if you can explain. I want it. Why wouldn't I want it? Luonan felt extremely exhausted after going through so many things. He let out a breath and gasped for a bit before continuing. I came up with this term. The source was the inspiration provided by Child. Child. Puppeteer adjusted his mentality. His utilitarian heart gradually faded, and his mind became much more nimble. He raised an eyebrow upon hearing Luonan's words. The ears of truth? Luonan didn't respond to this topic. He followed the prescribed order and continued to speak. Child once said that observation is order. According to my understanding, it refers to using one's own logic to comb through the myriad things of the world that one observes, establishing laws of order that are easy for one to understand and utilize. And our existence itself is the product of a certain natural order. Here, the order of the subjective and the objective, the order of the mental and the material interferes. It is like two gears biting together. If the coupling structure is relatively stable and the operation is effective, then it is a gear set with relatively independent functions. It is an order frame. An order frame can be large or small. Speaking small, it can be our own cultivation method, and it can even be subdivided. Speaking large, the myriad things of the world can be included within it. Connections can also occur between the various order frames. The eyes behind the diving goggles blinked. Perhaps it was because his mind had calmed down, or perhaps it was because he had a clear reference, but Puppeteer suddenly felt that Luonan's words were quite reasonable if he cast aside the descriptions of gears and formats and used terms that were easier for Puppeteer to understand. The order frame was like the self-logic of an ability user. Oh, this was Ouyang Chen's concept. Puppeteer preferred the more fanciful term of domain. On the side of headquarters, there were powerful people who proposed that the material world should be regularized. They wanted to use the perspective of pure supernatural power to reinterpret the entire universe. At the very least, they needed to leave a place for the mental plane. Of course, the 50 years of rapid development of the inner world was far too immature when compared to the profound and complex physical system that humanity had developed over 1,000 years. This argument could only be used as a form of motion. It could only be listened to for the time being. Were kids these days considering such complex issues? Or was formatting theory really that valuable? He would have to dig deeper when he got back. They're really chatting? Zhang Yingying was dizzy from listening through the three-way communications. She could not help but shout, "Don't get carried away. This fellow puppeteer is very sinister. Hey, I think I heard someone say snake tongue just now. It's snake tongue, right?" Luonan acted as if he did not hear her. He continued to talk loudly. It was Shuelei who confirmed in a low voice, "It's snake tongue without a doubt. There's also a tank. He's over at Gear right now. He's threatening Nanster. That sinister woman has quite the reputation. She's a true curse mage with an inheritance. Holy crap. I just checked. She's not in the investigation team at all. She snuck over." Zhang Yingying slapped the steering wheel again. Right now, the investigation team's leader and deputy leader are both under control. But the other side may not know about this variable. Snake tongue. We must notify the people coming over to provide support. Otherwise, we'll just be sending ourselves to our deaths. Shuelei's heart tightened a bit. Is this person very powerful? She's been an architect-level character for a long time, but she's a bit like Nanster. Her body isn't too good, so she lives in seclusion and rarely shows herself. But she specializes in curses, and she also understands torture and assassination. She's extremely sinister. When it comes to harming people, she can leave her soul body and travel 1,000 kilometers in a single night to another city. Oh my god. Zhang Yingying stopped slapping the steering wheel and instead slapped her thigh. Be careful of this person. You must be careful. You guys are talking a bunch of nonsense over there, but if she's in an out-of-body state, she can go from Gear to Ocean Sky Cloud City in a single thought. Shuelei's scalp went numb when he heard this. He immediately opened his mouth to warn Luonan. Nanster. The words just left his mouth when Luonan's back borrowed a bit of strength from the protective glass. He stood up straight and spoke softly. You might not be able to understand it if you just say it with your mouth. This way, I can do a demonstration. Puppeteer keenly sensed the minute changes on Luonan's side, especially Shuelei. It was clear that Shuelei was communicating with someone and knew some information. Puppeteer's heart tightened a bit, and his body quickly entered a battle-ready state. The smile on his face didn't change. Demonstration? I think what you said just now was quite good. I already understand the concept of the order frame. It's actually a domain, a small universe, a law of heaven and earth. Am I right? Wrong. Luonan responded in a straightforward and efficient manner. The core I just spoke of isn't actually in the order frame. Instead, it lies in coupling. The former has a myriad of names, but its source lies in the myriad of connections between each other. My mother classified these connections as coupling. I think it's quite appropriate. In the end, Puppeteer's blood-red eyes opened into a slit. Deep darkness and stillness were mixed within the blood-red color. His gaze fell upon the fallen figure in front of the heavenly ocean lake. The one who's playing dead is a very typical example. Many black beetles, who had not moved at all, felt their bodies jolt. Their scalps went numb. They felt Shuelei, who was in front of them, and Puppeteer, who was behind them. Their gazes were like knives as they sliced over. Chapter 308. Black Beetle really was playing dead. Though Luonan's second mental attack was much stronger than the first, there was still an end to it. After enduring the most painful period, Black Beetle regained his soul and regained his ability to move. However, Black Beetle could no longer find his position in the current situation. He saw it clearly. This group of people from headquarters were all unreliable cold-blooded people. After he made a move against Luo Nan, he severed his friendship with the Xia City branch. He did a pirate-style jump and finally smashed into the sea. Right now, Black Beetle hated Luo Nan to the core. He hated Puppeteer to the core, and his teeth itched. Presumably, both sides felt the same way about him. Black Beetle didn't know how to deal with this awkward situation. He could only lie on the ground and play dead. He thought about how to adapt to the situation. It would be best if the sandpiper and the clam could fight and the fisherman could profit from it. But if not, he would retreat unscathed. Who would have thought that Luo Nan would talk about those inexplicable concepts right when the two sides were about to completely forget about him? Then Luo Nan picked him up in passing. What happened next? The demonstration caused a chill to run down Black Beetle's back. Luo Nan didn't have any good intentions. Should Black Beetle continue to play dead? Or should he rise up in revolt? Black Beetle was so conflicted that he wanted to hit the ground. Luo Nan didn't care about Black Beetle's reaction at all. His voice didn't even pause. From what I can see, Black Beetle's gear set, order frame, has a total of 4 gears inside and out. In the middle is a large gear formed from the structure of body and soul. Practically all power must circulate through it. Every ability user must possess such a central hub. This was relatively simple, and Puppeteer had no trouble understanding it. However, Puppeteer's attention was a bit off. His ice-cold gaze swept back and forth over Black Beetle's motionless body. Needless to say, Puppeteer believed 80% of Black Beetle's story of Luo Nan playing dead. Puppeteer had let Black Beetle down earlier, but since he had offended Black Beetle, there was no point in thinking too much about it. Puppeteer was more concerned about how to deal with this variable. Black Beetle has an outer gear aside from the central gear. That is, the 27 beetles scattered on the viewing platform and the 6 beetles in his necktie. The precise number Luo Nan spoke drew Puppeteer's attention back. Luo Nan gave a rough sense. The numbers scattered on the platform should be about the same. However, that gaudy necktie was Black Beetle's core tool. It was always hidden tightly. How did Luo Nan confirm it? After hesitating for a moment, Puppeteer decided not to take it seriously. Luo Nan continued to speak. The 33 beetles appear to be scattered, but they are actually intimately connected through the activation of soul strength. They can form another gear structure at any time. This method should be more flexible, and it wouldn't matter if he threw a few of them. However, the material was relatively brittle, and if he really used it, it would probably only have enough power for one attack. Also, his necktie looks pretty good. It should be polished with gears often. What I mean is that he often uses interference force to communicate with his chi. It can be used as a medium for activation, and it's not that fragile, so it should be more practical. It's insect explosion and poison sting. The former is a corrosive poisonous mist, while the latter is a killing move of the flexible sword style. They are Black Beetle's 2 secret skills. Zhang Yingying's voice passed through the wristband to supplement Luo Nan's words. It allowed the stupefied Xue Lei to hear it a bit more clearly. At the same time, Xue Lei could tell that Zhang Yingying's voice was a bit shaky at the end. What the hell? What the hell? Black Beetle was unable to hear Puppeteer's thoughts. He was also unable to hear Zhang Yingying's explanation, but he didn't need to. Even though he was unfamiliar with descriptions like gear and order frame, what Luo Nan said was something that had fused into his blood. It was the foundation of his foothold in this world. Now that Luo Nan had pointed them out one by one, it would be strange if he felt comfortable. Black Beetle was instinctively unwilling to believe it. No, this isn't logical. Oh, think about it. My information is confidential, but the society is a place with openings on all sides. Zhang Yingying and that mechanical woman know my ins and outs. This little bastard probably knew the result long ago, so he used that so-called order frame of his to wrap things up and mess with my mind? Or maybe this kid doesn't care if I'm awake or not. He just wants to use me to divert Puppeteer's attention? The more Black Beetle thought, the more suspicious he became. The more he thought, the angrier he became. He was conflicted in his mind for quite a while, but he still clenched his teeth and made a decision. He would deal with the myriad of changes by remaining unchanged. In any case, his face was stuck to the ground. He might as well just leave his face on the ground. He would just treat Luo Nan's words as farts, and he wouldn't move. At this time, Puppeteer took the initiative to ask Luo Nan, "Didn't you say there are 4 gears? There are only 2. The third gear is a bit different from the first 2. It is independent from Black Beetle's body and soul structure. It's called coupling, but it's more like a parasitic. Parasitism can also be considered a type of coupling. I think it counts." Luo Nan's words were unclear, but they nailed Black Beetle to the ground the instant they entered his ears. Impossible. Black Beetle felt as if someone had used an ice blade to cut open the back of his neck. A bone-piercing chill and pain spread from the center of his spine to the 2 ends. In the blink of an eye, even his toes were covered in ice. Others might be confused, but Black Beetle's mind was crystal clear. What Luo Nan was talking about was his life bug. The source of his ability was a mutant beetle. He had accidentally swallowed it into his stomach in his early years, and it fused with his extraordinary power to build a unique ability structure. He had nurtured it for many years, and the mutant demon bug had already been deeply rooted within his body. It had become the most important foundation of his ability. This was the #1 secret of his life. He had always kept it rotten in his stomach, never mentioning it to anyone. How could Luo Nan possibly know? Unless this kid had a pair of clairvoyant eyes that could see through his internal organs and see through all of his secrets. It was also at this time that Black Beetle recalled the feeling of being transparent and bright, unobstructed and unobstructed. The wind blew through the gaps, and the light shone on the earth. Was there a pair of incorporeal eyes behind this unfathomable sense of transparency? Staring at him all the time, not leaving a single hair behind? Black Beetle's heart beat wildly with this thought. He slapped the ground across his chest, and the aura on his body fluctuated. Everyone present had keen senses. Naturally, it was impossible to hide it from them. This kid is really playing dead. Shuelei had a straightforward temperament. He shouted out, "Go F*** King die." Even though Black Beetle's face was pressed against the ice-cold ground, it was as if a fire had been ignited at this moment. An explosion rang in Black Beetle's mind, and a buzzing noise similar to tinnitus poured into his mind. This noise was mixed with emotions of fear and fury. It was like a rising flame, incinerating his plan of playing dead into ashes. He suddenly bent his elbows and straightened his body. Whether it was his body or his consciousness, his first reaction was to charge forward and tear apart the demon that had exposed the greatest secret of his life. Shuelei had been moving forward by half a body's length from beginning to end. Now he took a diagonal step, blocking Luo Nan behind his broad shoulders. Speed wasn't Black Beetle's strong suit, but strange shifting was engraved in his bones. Even though his mind was a mess right now, Black Beetle still instinctively chose to move when faced with Shuelei's rock-solid stance. With a few slight movements, Black Beetle shifted Shuelei's center of gravity, and he saw the face behind Shuelei. A small portion of Luo Nan's face was revealed. He only had one eye, and only a slit could be seen in his eye socket. The deep red color absorbed all the light, and it was pitch black. It transformed into an incorporeal pressure that pressed against Black Beetle's chest. There's still the 4th gear. I just put it on not too long ago. Before Puppeteer could finish speaking, a gale rose on the half-open viewing platform, and Shuelei and Black Beetle collided together. Explosions rang out one after another, and Luo Nan's hoarse and weak voice drifted away. It was far away, and Puppeteer might not be able to hear it clearly unless he focused his mind. Puppeteer wasn't sure if Luo Nan was talking to him or not, but it sounded very much like Luo Nan's tone. The 4th gear doesn't belong to him at all. It comes from the outside. At first, it served a defensive function. It was like a lampshade, shielding against mental attacks. But right now, the coupling method has changed. It has changed from a lampshade to a lasso. Black Beetle grunted and retreated. Shuelei's close combat ability was at least a level higher than his own. Black Beetle had no chance of victory in a direct confrontation. Plus, Luo Nan's voice lingered by his ear without dispersing. Luo Nan's words pierced his mind over and over again, making it hard for Black Beetle to continue fighting. Black Beetle shifted his body greatly to the side. He no longer exposed his back to Puppeteer. Instead, he formed a long and narrow triangle before stopping. He gasped for breath slightly. His gaze first stared at Luo Nan, then turned to Puppeteer. Then, his gaze flitted across the various shadows of the platform. His mind wavered like his gaze. As for Luo Nan and Puppeteer, the gazes cast over from both sides seemed to be quite subtle. Intense unease and fear materialized, rolling within Black Beetle's chest and abdomen. Snake tongue. Give me a reply. What responded to him was a hissing sound. It was quiet and dark, like the hissing of a viper in the darkness. Scales slithered. Black Beetle was overwhelmed with shock when he wanted to move. A terrifying feeling of numbness rose from his abdomen all the way up, drowning his internal organs and drowning his throat. The power of the numbness continued to rise. A buzzing sound pierced into his brain. Black Beetle's eyeballs bulged, and veins crawled over the whites of his eyes. His eyes were filled with fear and despair. This was his life bug. He had always carefully kept it within his abdomen, keeping it separate from his internal organs. But now, the demon bug had gone out of control. The mutant demon bug's terrifying instincts awoke under the influence of the strange hissing sound. It bit its way through Black Beetle's intestines, stomach, chest, throat, and all the way to the brain. Black Beetle wanted to struggle, but his opponent didn't give him any chance. As the feeling of numbness and the buzzing sound of the bug entered his brain, his consciousness darkened. His spiritual light was lost forever. The violent wind masked Luo Nan's long and drawn-out sigh. Luo Nan didn't want to save Black Beetle. He just wanted to give Black Beetle a warning and trip up his opponent's secret plan. However, he never thought that Black Beetle's methods would be so ruthless. Black Beetle had directly awakened the mutant bug parasitizing within Black Beetle's abdomen. The roles of host and guest were reversed. Black Beetle died rigidly in the wind. He was thoroughly dead. Right now, his body only existed as the exoskeleton of the mutant demon bug. He was tossed about at will. Xuelei wasn't too sure. He sized up Black Beetle with vigilance and asked Luo Nan, "Is he?" Luo Nan nodded. "Dead." Before Xuelei could finish speaking, Black Beetle opened his mouth. "Yasakasha." Black Beetle wiggled his lips, tongue, and throat. The range was very clear, but his voice was vague and hoarse. When he used too much strength, a green spike even protruded from his mouth. It even swayed left and right. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.